All right. Hello, guys. Welcome once again to this series, and welcome to the fourth part of this series of building our own Web3 mobile wallet. So let's get started. Like I said, today is just going to be as fast as possible. We are jumping right into the build, starting from where we stopped yesterday. So yeah, in order not to waste time, let's just go into that. So remember where we stopped yesterday? We started with this. We have the welcome screen, which I'm sure I'm sharing my screen, right? Let me reshare. Doesn't seem to be working. Okay, so this is what we have. This was how we had it yesterday. First thing we have here was we created all the accounts. I'm going to go dark mode, right? So we can work with dark mode just straightforward. So this yesterday, and we that's in the part three of the series, and we decided to implement the screens and the container for the screens, which we it has from there. So let's to it. We already know that we have a template, we have a design template we are working with. So please, right? So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. So we have our accounts page, we have our send page, we have the history page, we have the settings page, but we do not have some other things we need like the store, and which is very important. We need to have the store, and the reason why we need the store is so that we can make some or very good informed decisions, like I said. So let me increase the screen here again. Um, Font size is generally font for the editor appearance. Okay. All right, I think this is big enough. All right, so this we are in the history page. Let's go to our index page, which is the main index page. So what we want to start with today is to create our store. We need to modify the store, and today we are going to be using AI to make our work faster because we don't want to have writing everything. We already have the structure. We just want to start with integrations and just proceed from there. So integrating the components we need and just moving from there. So what we need to do next is we already have our select, whereby we can select our network that we want to change to, which we did yesterday. So we have a hook that was provided by Alchemy, which is the main we are using for all wallet functionalities. So I can switch from different networks. And you can see I'm already on base with the trigger and everything. So I'm going to just stick to that implementation. Basically, nothing much to work around with. So going to so let's customize this. We have a template, right? We said our template is using this. Let me reopen that. I closed it while I was trying to free up some resource on my laptop. So let's go to the store. We have the stores which we created yesterday, and from the store here we have this. Why does it this way? Hope it's not corrupted. Okay, it's not. So we have all of this: the background bridge, the storage sync. I think I pushed this. Yeah, I did. The background bridge, the storage sync, and all the other things we have need of. So currently you can see I'm logged out already simply because my token is expired, right? So usually 24 hours based on the configuration. It expires after 24 hours and I need to resign. So that configuration is handled from where did we do that? It's in the yeah, it's here. Check here. You can see the configuration expires after 24 hours. So that's what we did. So the setup is actually valid. So I'm going to log in again, and use my public address, which I'm just going to use to sign in. And so I will get an OTP from there. I'll verify my OTP. So I'm waiting for the, okay, I've gotten it. So the code is 504864. So I verify my OTP. And if all is well, yeah. So we should be back to the same stuff we had before. Nothing has changed. Nothing usually has changed from what we had. So going back to that, we are going to have our earlier here. So you still see we have the same balance, so nothing has changed, still the same account. Sign in, sign out, same account. So we already know we have this as our design system that we are trying to implement. So we're just going to stick with this. But before doing that, let's implement our store. We need a store for it. So we can just copy from the store and make use of that directly. So I'm going to change from here. I'm going to have an error here. I'm going to call it default chain. So in this case, they are not going. We won't have the custom networks. The reason why we won't have custom networks is because we just want our app to use the network that is available. We are not going to have that for any craziness. Just that simple. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too out of place. Just for us to work with. So that's our implementation in this case. So it's just going to be the networks that are available by default by Alchemy that we know that we can use and we can get results. So we are not creating any custom networks. So we're going to make some changes. We're not using custom networks in any way. We're not using that implementation, gas sponsorship, balance versions. Yeah. So all of this is still going to remain. We are going to make some tweaks to this. Like I said yesterday, we are going to make some changes, but it's not going to be drastic. For now, we can just work with this and convert it to work for a um a web a mobile application because currently this is for web. Like I said, this was used for this extension you see here. But this time around, we are converting the same store because it's going to be similar, just slight changes. So there's no point in writing the entire thing. So we are just going to be making that change. So I'm going to use this one, Kemi default chain, default chain, chain somewhere. We have that in our instance, right? Which we created yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, chains. Is it chains? I think so. Yeah, default alchemy chain. Yeah, so that should work. So default alchemy chain. Give me autocomplete. What's happening? Come on. So default alchemy chain. Yeah, so I'm going to import that from. Okay, yeah. So it's imported already, and we have that. So you can see the import works already. We have that in the config. So I'm just going to use the actual type that we have, src/config.chains. So we're good to go. So everything should be perfect up to this point. So two more things we need to make that we need to make some changes to the background bridge in this case. So I'm just going to tell the AI to make some uniform changes. First thing we are going to change is we are going to change this to using the source directory so it aligns with our actual directory because we know in this case there is no default chain, we just have default alchemy chain. So there's no get chain by ID, which we still need the function to work. And looking at the chain from where we copied yesterday, there's an utility function to get the chain by ID. But we don't want to also stick to that because we believe that Alchemy should provide that function. So whatever function Alchemy provides, we will not create. So let's see if we have something like that. Chain by ID. Uh, let's see. Get chain by ID. Let's see if you have something like that. Let's get chain by ID. Okay, I think there's a get chain. There's a get chain ID. Yeah. So this might just work for us. We don't need to recreate it. The reason why I'm recreating it over there is because it's a the implementation for that one is even more complex than what we are building currently. The implementation for that, but this is actually way simpler than what we're building. So let's see. We're working with get default chain or get chain. Right. Let's see. Where is that? Where is that? Where is that? You just broke me here. Where is get chain? Why? Let me search for it. Get chain ID. Okay. So this is get chain ID. So it basically says it is from the That's library. I don't want the full that's library. I need something that I can use. Get chain ID because there isn't VM, so obviously not the that's library. Account kit. This is from Ethers. I don't want that. So let's see if there's any other function we can use. Get chain. If get chain works for us, get the currently active chain. And I think the get chain provides us some other functionality, right? So we might not be needing this. That's the get chain by ID function. Reason is because um, okay, I'm just going to leave it for now based on what we have here. I'm just going to leave it for now. It's not going to change anything at all. So let's just leave it there and just have it stay as it is. So we're going to create this. I'm going to open this other one. Yeah, what is this? Seriously taking my space. All right. So one more thing, I want to pick from the implementation also that we had, which we copied from yesterday. Remember that we add something there. This just keeps failing for some many reasons. So I'm going to copy this from the store again, but I want to check from the utils storage. Um, Pick that from the utils. So I'm going to go here, go to the utils. I'm going to go to storage to see what is in storage. So let's check storage in this case. So storage is basically how we stored our implementations, you can see. So we have certain things stored for the extension that we created. So it's going to be basically similar functionalities, not too crazy. So this is an helper function for storing because we are working with two different networks, right? We have over 700 networks supported on the extension, so you can actually use that for whatever you want to use it for. It's quite easy to work with. So that's basically the idea. So in this case now, all of this you see here, they're just helper functions for storing information, retrieving it per time. So you can see I'm using this storage that comes from Plasma. Plasma is like the XDK that is used to make it easy to scaffold an extension. I'm still going to make a video series about creating extensions as quick as possible. Probably that will be in a three-part series because it should be faster to implement something simple, just to give you the heads up, and then we move on. So I'll create that. But if you want it, if there's anyone that want that video as soon as possible, just drop a comment on that, and I'll will work my calendar to make it work. So just feel free to drop your request on that, and I'll make it work for you. So let's proceed to the next thing. We have all of this, but like I said, we are not going to be implementing the same thing because we don't need to store as many things as possible. For instance, you are creating accounts, you can see get stored accounts. This is just to make it easy for us to get some other functionalities, get stored accounts, get selected network type. But this is available for us because we can always fetch from Alchemy. But the interesting thing is that do we also need to do all of this fetch? Can we have some cached implementation? Yes, we definitely need to catch some things because we don't want to always be hitting the endpoint for every single request. We want to have some caches, and then once the cache expires, we make the fetch and store again. That's like the easiest way. So this is just basic app, or let me say basic application creation ethics. You don't want to always hit your endpoint, even if it's free or even if it is just a little application. You should implement some layer of caching to it. So in this case, this is the layer of caching we are going to implement. So this is going to be where we have that. So there's something called the utils where we have the environment, as you can see here. The environment file is just basically determining, it's also an helper function. Almost all of them are helper functions in this case. But there are a lot of things we do not need. So I don't want to copy this directly. There's an helper function to get the network type, get the blockchain name, and all of those things, which we have. And you can see it's getting it from the store in this case, which we can make use of. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the utils files here. Like I said, we are not recreating the entire thing. I will explain if there's anything we need to use, and I'll tell you why we are making that decision. So I'm copying the utils file. Oh, it already exists. Oh, instruct. So I'm going to delete this because there's nothing inside of it. Something is wrong with this. I think this is just messed up. Something is wrong. So sorry guys, let me restart this. Let me just restart this ID. I feel like it's messy at this point. There's a lot of things wrong with it, which I don't understand why. Is it back? No. Still corrupt for some reason. This is not a good sign. Nothing is available to use. Nothing is opening. I have to stop everything. Yeah, close all of this and restart it. Hopefully it works. Showing me as empty files and empty directories. That's not a good sign. I just hope I don't have any file loss. But well, that's not an issue because I already pushed it to the I already pushed to the repo. The repo I said that was going to create. So we have a repo we can use now, but I'm just going to re-implement that. Even if it crashes at this point, I want to be sure it doesn't before I proceed. So I can be sure it's on the right track. Okay, so let's see. Oh no. Oh, no. So all my files are basically lost. Sorry about this, but there's nothing accessible and available to use for now. You can see nothing is opening right now. Nothing is opening. No folder is opening. So let's just hold on for a bit. It's just I believe it crashed. Probably I need to just implement this. This didn't happen the last time I checked. I don't know why this is happening right now. It says see details and submit report. File delete exception. File is deleted, cannot be loaded. I didn't delete anything. Please do not delete anything from my file. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, so apparently everything is I think everything is gone at this point. I can't even access the entire folder, even though I still have them open. So I think this is a mistake. It's a it's a it's a it's an honest mistake from the ID. I'm going to assume because everything is gone. I can't access it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to the history and I should be able to access that. Um, okay, this is this is unexpected. Uh, an error that all the files are gone, deleted, like deleted for this project. I just hope it's for this project because that would be disastrous. Seriously hope it's just for this project. Oh no. Oh my god. Seriously hope it's for this project alone and not for something else because that would be disastrous. I have pending tasks I've not committed. Some other thing. Seriously hope it's just for this one. But as you can see, I can access them here and they all work fine. So I know it's just a misunderstanding between the VCS for this project and something else because I can also open it on. I should be able to open this also. Okay, this is not looking good. Uh, so the file still exists. All the files are here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this, totally remove this from my list of projects and add it again. So just give me just a few minutes to do this. So I'll remove this totally. I'm just going to remove it from. remove from recent projects. Totally remove this from the list. And then I'll open it again. So the reason why I'm not good at this is because I backed up everything we did yesterday. Till yesterday is backed up. So it's not really an issue per se. I'm just going to let me open it again. Uh, so I'm going to open this. So this should be fine, except if it fails, still the same thing. So I think it's corrupted already. I may have to I may have to just clone it again from the repo and then just proceed. Okay. So oh no, this should not be happening today. I wanted to speed this up today. Okay, so apparently I can't use this. So I'm just going to do something else. Totally. What can I do? I really invested too much here down to like clear the entire thing. So this is an unforeseen unforeseen issue, and I'm so sorry for this happening right now because delay. Just setbacks right now. Can you just walk? Hmm. Okay, this is extremely corrupt. I don't even know what to do right now. So I'm just going to do this. The only thing I feel like is the easiest solution right now is to leave the copy and probably. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to delete all of this. Like I'll assume it doesn't exist. I'll go back to. I'm going to just clone the repository, remove this from projects, remove this totally. I'll just stop sharing my screen, close the repo, have to I put some credentials, and then I'll start sharing again. So what I'm going to do is just clone this repository. Okay, so I'm cloning the new one. We have the repository we had yesterday, something similar. So we're just going to be the changes I made today is just going to like probably just go back from where we had it. So this is it. And yeah, so we are back. So I just needed to do that. So what I need to do now is to reinstall the entire thing. Hopefully it doesn't take as much time as previously it previously took when we were setting up the project. But so all of these things happen. This is probably why you need to like always back up your project. And that's why I was saying VCS, VCS. Thank God I pushed this yesterday. If not, we'll be stranded again today. But all well and good. Thank God for this. So next thing is to wait until the installation is done. And once the installation is complete, oh wow, nice, it's done. So that's the advantage of using um, PM sometimes. So I'm just going to start the project. So now that we have everything set up, the problem now is that we need to build this again. Okay, hopefully I don't need to do that. I don't think we need to do that. So I'm just going to keep this here. Then we have our setup back to what we had before. So now let's go back to the main thing. Let's go to the source folder, go to the app first of all, and go to the main, go to the index page. So like I said, let's work on the stores, right? So I'm going to start with some AI changes. And I'm going to point the AI to the store that we already have. The reason is to make it easy. A store is just a way to manage state easily, so you don't need to do that manually using like context as React provides you text. But we can have stores. So very big issue right now. I don't even see most of the things we did. Yeah, so everything we did yesterday is not even here. Okay, no, it's not on the main, it's on the, if I'm not mistaken, there are two repositories here. Didn't I clone that? I'm setting up this one. So I check out to this. So this is the one we have as of yesterday. So I'm going to check out to this one. So this one is the one we we did. So I'm going to run pnpm install again for this. I'm going to close this pnpm. I'm going to reinstall it. So there are two branches. I created a new branch yesterday, which we use for um, the new implementations, the React reusables, the settings, literally everything we did yesterday, right? So now we have our project set up again, and then we proceed. So, like I said, these are some of the issues you face when you work on stuff like this. It happens almost all the time. So I'm even happy that this happens here, so that you know that if this happens, you should have a way to guard against it. So expect this to happen. It's part of being a developer's, or it's part of a developer's job. Or basically, even if you're not a developer, whatever job you do, expect glitches like this to happen. It's not bad; it just happens once in a while, but you should be ready for them. So now we've already fixed this. There are many options, but this is the first one. So we resolve this. We have our projects back. So we have to make sure we keep as much as possible now backing up the project by having VCS compilations. So one thing I want to do again is to delete the copy I created here the other time. So I'm just going to delete this because I don't want it. It's going to just be taking my space and I don't want that to happen. So let's go back to this. And then I'm going to, from the store now, we are going to make some changes. So the changes we want to make from the store is making the UI changes like we did the other time. So we are going to say default alchemy chain is what we want to use. So we change this from this to default alchemy chain, um, like this. So we have this already implemented and we have it set up. So we are good to go. This was the only change I did the other time. But we need to make other changes because we don't want this. There are a lot of things we don't want. For instance, we don't want the network type. We are not concerned about DevNet. Anything that has to do with testnet or dev implementations, we are not concerned. Everything we are working with for this wallet is strictly just mainnet. But for now, I'm going to leave all of this because for now we are going to be working with both tests, um, test blockchains, testnet blockchains, and some the mainnet. We don't want to with refunds, transactions, and some other things, even payments, even that. So we're going to needs to use good. Don't we have this. The getting by ID is what is a function that comes from. Basically, this is just it. I don't want to talk much about this. Into it. So what first thing we're going to do today is let's make some changes. So I'm going to tell the AI, what do you analyze, select, and explain what you understand about this project to me. So I'm going to first tell you to like analyze the project. So he has a workflow that's going to it's going to create a workflow for this. Now, there's a way you can do it in multiple um in any ID you use. For the ID I use, this is how I create my workflow. In this case, this is a works rules. I'm going to create a rule for it. The rule is going to guide it per project. Now you can create a general rule that the LLM will use to understand what to use for every project you work on. But for this project, it's going to be different because it's different from most of the projects I work on. I work on different projects, so mobile and some other ones. This particular one is different for workspace file, call it workspace rule. I'm going to create rules to use that across. So that's the essence of that. So like I said, we're going to set up our MCP servers and other things to make it easy for the LLM to work for us. Very, very easy. So now let's look at what most of the things that are said. So you understand that Yes, I need to analyze this. Looking at the file, it said React Native mobile application, which is cool. You understand that it's a React Native application. It uses Expo, yes. TypeScript, yes. Has wallet relation functionalities, yes. Uses zero UI native component, yes. Has blockchain Web3 integration, yes. So another thing is we understand some other things, which at the end of the day gave us this review. My um is a sophisticated wallet application built with React Native and Expo. Is based on Alchemy Account Kit, which is true. Quick start template and design as a mobile wallet for managing blockchain asset and interacting with decentralized application, which is also true. The core framework, this, exactly. So you understand we have to stand for state management, which is important because we are going to convert native stand for web into stand for mobile. So it needs to make some changes. I don't want to have to do that. It's going to take a lot of time. So accounts, Alchemy account kit is this. We've installed the library, VM and WAGMI, yes. Support for modular account V2, perfect. Multi-chain support for 40 plus network, perfect. So you understand all of these things based on the fact that you just went through it. So the UI component it understands. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder for it because I don't want it to make mistakes. So I'm going to create a folder and call it. Now this docs folder is just where I'm going to be keeping the empty files I'm going to be creating so that it can use that for readmes, for any feature I want to implement, for updates I want to make, so that it has somewhere to make reference to. So I'm going to create a file inside this readme and call it workspace rules, or let me call it project rules, right? So it understands project rules .md. So in this case now, I'm going to tell you to create a rule, the rule for this project, extensive rule in project rules. So that will be what guides the LLM across different features we are going to be working on and updates we are going to be implementing. So that's the way I do it, and it works very well, at least most of the time. It was like 90% it works. So user interface, we already have that set up. It understands what we have. These are the pages we have. It perfectly understands state management, we have stores. So I need you to understand the store because it needs to make decisions, even lock state for accounts, for themes, and all of those things. It's very important. So storage sync is for persistent data management, background bridges for communication between foreground background processes. We need to tweak it to make it work for mobile, right? So we need to understand what is happening. Development setup, it understands, even the fonts, it understands. Then it's smart account integration also, it's very, very important. So it's good you understand that already. Support for sponsor transactions, perfectly clear. Multi-chain architecture, very cool. Responsive design, yes. Themes, yes. So this is this. So it says it's a production-ready mobile wallet that demonstrates best practices in all of those things I just LLM stuff. So I'll say write the complete set of rules that this project follows based on what you understand, that will guide my LLMs on how it works, how it should work from dev to pro. Can you do this? So I'm going to ask this question. So once it understands, it will tell me that it will write it somewhere. So it already understands that it should write it in project rules. I can say to write it when I was specifying what it should do, but it's there are set of rules. I said complete set of rules. So it's going to try writing the set of rules, and that's what's going to happen. It's going to tell me some things are missing. For instance, if you look at the store, it knows that the store is not completely done, so it will make some changes to it. So I need to tell you to write that. It says, based on my analysis of this, I'll create a complete rule book that will guide the LLMs on how this project is structured and should work from development to production. To create this document, I need to write to project-rules.md. It's making inference, right? So it's going to write what the architecture looks like, development rules, blockchain integration rules, specifying fully that I'm using account kit. And because I already have the MCP server implemented, like I showed you guys, the MCP server is already implemented, so there's no issues. Fetching, making requests, everything is already done, which I showed you guys the other day from let's see, MCP. I think I showed you guys MCP the other day. MCP servers. I showed you guys the settings, and I showed that we already have a MCP, which is here. So it's very easy to implement here. All I need to do is, if I want to add it to my own use case, this is I already added this, but if I have not, I'll just configure the MCP servers like you see here, and I'm going to use it. That one is there. So that's done. So what we need to do next is we already have this state management rules and all of this. So what's next? What next? What's next? So yeah, this is cool. I think everything we need, including the state management rules, are done. Substance store patterns, selector usage. So this is just to guide it for consistent requests. So it won't go and hallucinate and create things we don't want for us. Of course, it will still hallucinate. That's why we need to guide it. If not, I'll just tell it to write it and I'll just go. There's no need for me creating the videos, right? But then because AI is not perfect and we've not achieved the level of consistency we want with it yet. AI is still AI, it's still just a computer, garbage in, garbage out. It's just smarter, but still dumb. So let's get out of the way. So I'll toggle this so that it can write to the project rules, right? It will write to the project rules, as you can see here. It's already making that change. It's already writing to product rules.md. So it's going to write project rules. It's going to be very, very extensive. So what I'm going to do is once it's done with the rules, I'll copy the rules and add it to my workspace here for this LLM I'm going to be using and for other LLMs I'm going to use. So I'm just teaching you how you can construct your AI flow so that it's easy for you to move. Because as a dev now, you need to know how to leverage AI for your use case. Like I know countless things I've built from start to finish that makes it easy because I have things set up. Most times for smaller projects, I don't do all of this. I just plan, I just give it, I want to do this, do this. I'll break it down into tasks for myself. And then I'll just, once I have my setup, because I always like making my setup. I don't like AI implementing the setup for me. It can make it too complicated for you. And it's going to be difficult to handle. So always remember that that is part of what you should do. So once you set up your code, it's always good for you to set it up. You can always use the help of AI, yes, but it's good to set it up, just like we've done, setting up the design system, the components we need and all. Then when you are done with it, bring the AI in as your assistant, as your bot, as whatever you want to use it for. But in this case, it should help you as the helper for the project. So that's exactly what I'm showing you guys. I hope this works for your project going forward. It's really helpful. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it to, I'm going to create a new file. So I'm just going to say the workspace rules. In this case, I'm going to call it project rules.md. So you can see it's creating a new one here, right? So I'm just going to paste the same thing here. The one I copied from here, paste it here. And I can also move it. But the reason why I'm not moving it directly is because this is an hidden directory just for the AI. So it's good to have a backup and a copy of it in case something goes wrong. And you can use it across multiple LLMs too. So I'm going to create this and copy this that we just copied, we just created using the AI and paste it here. And then we are good to go. So we spent almost an hour plus the issues that happened. But still, we are going to move very fast today. Like I said, today is more integrations. Then once we are done with integrations, the other things are just basic. But today is part 4. We still have 3 more to go. So I'm sure we can finish this before the today part 7 of the series. So I'm going to close this. Now we have these project rules for the LLM. So it knows that this is what is going to happen. So I can also create flow in terms of how it's going to work from like creating tasks to submitting PR and all of those, but we don't need that. If you want to do that from, let's say, dev to build, probably to like expo build and all, you can use the workflow to specify, but that's not the aim of this. That takes a lot more time. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to also close this. We already know what we want to do. So now that the AI understands what we need to do, I'm going to tell it to make its first change. So which is what? The stores. Remember I said the store needs to be updated. So I'm going to say, based on your understanding of the stores, can you do you think these stores, the files, creating the files in the store? So I'm going to link it to the store directory. The store directory is are valid. It seems I know it is, but I'm just going to tell it so that you can also think. It seems they are meant for web. They are created for web and not for mobile. So I'm just going to ask this question. So I want you to read through the application. I know that I've already created things. So I'm just going to tell you that, okay, because it's meant for web, because there's a lot of things. Background bridge uses other things that doesn't even exist. So 2 things I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to, well, what I should have done initially is to pick some information that I need. For instance, about the storage, I need utils, right? So what I would have done is just to pick that, which I did. So I'll just copy it again from here and I'll just paste it here. So I'm going to copy utils and I'll paste it here. But because we don't use it, please don't give me issues. I'm working the system a bit too hard, and I think that's the problem. But then you should be able to withstand it. That's why it was bought. All right, so I'm going to just copy all of this. I have the environment. So instead of copying the directory, which I can do just to avoid issues as we had previously. I'm going to copy the signer which we have to. So we have the signer and we have the oh yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So we have the signer already. And what I'm going to use is I'll just copy the ones I need for it instead of every single thing. So test gas sponsorship. I'm not going to copy that. No problem. I'll just copy it. So I'm going to paste all of this except for the index into the utils file here. So I'm going to copy all the files. Index already exists. Skip the index file. The index file, don't add it to this. The index file I have already makes sense. Let me check what index file is here. Index file here is about, oh yeah, so this is basically for the extension for some display of the extension, fetching its price. Oh yes, so I need this. So I'm just going to copy what I need from here. I need things like a string or number and some other functions, some utility functions that we created. So I'm just going to copy that. Fetch its price. You can see we already have that. So we are going to need it. Fetch the ticker price to camel case. Those are just utility functions that I have generally for all my projects. So I tend to have like one I can use. And this is a way to determine if MetaMask is active for the extension, not for the mobile app you're trying to build. So it's not there. So I'm going to copy that to index. We already have our index.tx also. So I'm going to open index.ts, add this new stuffs to it. So we already have shorting address. So I'm just going to remove the duplicate. We already have capitalized, if I'm not mistaken. So capitalize the first that was string, which is like extremely the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. We have to string and we have same to string, return a string, string dot slice. I think it's the same, I'm not sure. Except for the fact this doesn't return anything. So I'm just going to leave this string at character position 1. So I'm going to leave the one that is documented, or I'm going to remove this one. That one seems more typed. So I'm going to leave the one that is typed. I assume that is fine. So we already have this. So I'm going to go back to this, see if there's anything I need. Overflow. I think I copied some of this from other projects too, from an open source project. But I like some of the functions, so I just copied it because I know it will be usable. So it's the same address. We want to check if an address is the same address. Also is a very useful implementation that we can have. So yeah, so we're good to go. So in this case, I know that I have everything I am here for now. So I'm just going to what else? So we need some other things here, like the signing and some other things. But signing is going to be different now, so we can't use all of this. We can't use most of the things that are here. But fetch it price, for instance, like all of these functions will be useful, which you can see already have here. I'm using Alchemy here too to fetch some of these things. But we don't need this because now we have the SDK to work. So I'm going to close this. That's basically all I need for now. So we have 10 minutes before our first hour is spent. Yeah, so let's try rushing this. So I'm going to close this. I don't need any open thing that I don't need right now. It's going to be closed. So we have what needs to. So now this is the AI telling me what needs to change, simply because it knows that some things are missing. We definitely have some things that are missing. So in this case, data can be any type. So we are going to be ensuring everything we are returning here is strictly typed, like it's extremely typed. So find the ticker by name. Do we need this function? Do we need this function? Nah. Well, we might need it. So I'm just going to give the benefit of the doubt. Yes, it might be needed, but that depends. Yeah. So I'm going to, because I don't like seeing this red stuff. I really don't like seeing it in my app. So we are going to make use of the same CoinGecko implementation to fetch our it price, and then we're going to use that to display what needs to be shown on the home page, right? But for now, let's finish the store implementation. So it says, yes, you're absolutely right to question this. After analyzing the store files, I can confirm they are not indeed suitable for mobile and appear to be copied from a web browser extension wallet project, which is very valid because it's from a web browser extension wallet project. So here are the critical issues I found. Browser extension dependencies Plasma, which is is a Chrome extension, or is an extension library, which is not used for web. Chrome extension APIs, yes, which is what I have. Wrong state storage approach, yes. React Native should use this. Perfectly understood. Background script script architecture, which is this is designed for browser extension with background script communication. Chrome this doesn't exist in React Native app, so we can let go of that. So 100% the background bridge is going to leave. Like we said, we don't need all of this, so that means we can delete it just like that. So next thing we need the background script architecture. That this is designed for this. This doesn't exist. Missing mobile storage implementation uses this, but the store doesn't implement it properly. So what needs to be fixed is what? Replace Plasma with the actual storage, remove the entire background which is not applicable. So rewrite the storage sync, update the storage utils. Now you can see it's thinking of itself. So if I tell it to do it, it will just do one thing. But now that it understands the whole picture, it can make it can make more informed decisions, like wider scope decisions, and it will work. So update the storage utils to use mobile compatible APIs, then remove the browser specific dependencies as well. So removing browser specific dependencies in this case means, but currently we don't have any browser specific dependencies on our package.json, but it needs to check to be sure that it doesn't crash or give any issues while we are working. So what we are going to do is we are going to allow it to do all of this. So you can see immediate action required. The store files need complete rewriting to be mobile compatible. The current version will crash on mobile, which is true. Not going to work for React Native. Yes, follow wrong architectural pattern, which is also true. So if you would like me to create a plan to completely refactor this, I'll say yes. Create a plan for this, for the complete refactor. So this is just a way to explain how AI works. This is how best you can speed up your work. If I want to do this, you feel like this is taking time. Probably we use 10 minutes to analyze, and then for the next hour, we are going to do as much as possible. Trust me, just let's proceed from here. So please learn this also, because it's part of the skills you learn now, not just how to write code, but how to query and how to prompt AI is part of the skills you learn as a dev these days. So very important stuff. So what I'm going to do also again is I'm going to create my docs. The reason why I'm creating the documentation myself is because I've noticed that this causes issues for me personally when I'm creating probably the ID, probably the LLM. I don't know which one. But whenever I'm telling you to create a new file, it misbehaves. Not all of them, some of them do, but I don't want to risk anything. So I'm going to create the file I want it to write to, and I'll just tell it to write to that file. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to say stores refactor for mobile.md. So stores refactored for mobile.md. I will say create a plan for the complete refactor and write that plan in this stores complete refactor. Right. Okay. You know what? I'm going to split it into two different things. I'll say create a plan for it. So after creating the plan for it, I will tell you to write the plan inside of stores, and might not even tell you to write the plan there. You might just infer it just the same way you did the first time by inferring that project rules is where I'm going to write the file to, and that works. It's basically the same thing. So it's smart enough to make inference. So that's basically what an AI is. It makes inference based on probabilities, right? So it's going to just assume and say, okay, do I have this file? Can I write it here? Is it empty? If it's empty, I can make use of it. That's how LLMs think. That's how they work. So let's wait a bit for it. It shouldn't take more than a few minutes. It needs to understand those missing details. Things needs to be refactored. For instance, the utils files, the helper function I have, I don't need most of them. The reason I don't use them is because a lot of them are missing. Let me fix all the import first of all. So it doesn't need code this much. So we are going to make use of, like for instance, we don't need this, the chains. We don't need the chain metadata. We don't need supported chains. We know supported chains automatically. Supported chains in this case, if you go to chains .ts is alchemy chains. So alchemy chains supported chains. So that's basically what we are going to create. So I'm just going to create another stuff, call it export const supported chains equal to alchemy chains, so that it can be used across board. So I'm just doing the same thing. So metadata, we do not need that. The reason why we don't need metadata, we can import it, because if you check what it provides for us, we can see that there's a chain, if I'm not mistaken, chain metadata. I don't think we have chain metadata, because chain metadata comes from Okay, let me check from here. So we can see data chain. If I check for chain schema, I think yeah, chain schema works for chain metadata because it's more like is a more informed decision of the config. The config is just basic information like for chain and the which is coming from VM at the end of the day because it's coming from VM, nothing too different. But in this case, for the chain schema, is just a lot of okay. This is basically a result schema, so we don't need it. I think the change config is what we can also use. And the chain config is similar to what the metadata that I used for the other project is in this use case. So the chain metadata here is used literally everywhere, but we don't need this. Like I said, we don't need most of this, so we're going to remove it. So let's see the plan it created for us. It created this plan saying that yes, I need to have a complete understanding of the code base, which, like I said, yes, it does. So complete plan to refactor the stores is we need to remove all the wrong dependencies and everything. We don't need that. Rewrite the store, but making use of what we have already. Simple mobile storage utilities, complex the bounds with replace complex debound here, implement this for storage. So the reason why we created these files initially is to give it an idea of what we want to build, but without having to prompt it from scratch. So store architecture simplification, remove this, we don't need it. Simplify the storage sync to use mobile storage. Keep UI store definitely because we need it for a lot of things. Then update storage sync to use MMKV instead of Plasmo. Now the storage sync is this one. Storage sync in this case is basically how you synchronize data. So the reason why I created this for the other one is because, like I said, we are using a lot of other stuffs from we have a lot of utility files from the other project, and the reason why the utility files were needed is because let me do this. Uh, So the reason why the utility files were needed for the other project, all of these utility files, especially this manager now, is because we are storing a lot of things in storage, right? It's an extension. You expect it to load as fast as you click, and you want it to be that the data is not corrupted also. So you can see this optimized storage manager is just a class that has a lot of functions, methods in this case, that you can write to, right? It's basically still using existing method storage, but in a way, it's more optimized, right? There's a lot of other additions, right, to ensure that we have a queue system whereby data is being queued, right? So you don't have race conditions and all of those things. It prevents them even with bouncing and stuff. So this is a very complex implementation. Yes, I know, but it took a lot of time. And then we had watch outs to like watch for when things change. For instance, if you switch your wallet, does it reflect across the entire application? Yes. So that's the same way this wallet works. So this wallet is a very, very complex implementation, but it was fun to build, right? And AI helped a lot too in this case. For most of this written here, it was mostly AI, but I understood what was happening. So I was able to say, don't want this, add this, don't add this, and stuff like that. So that is it. So you might not really need all of this because a lot needs to change, but you can see the UI store is subscribing. The essence of subscribing is so that you can make the change in real time and we don't need to implement it automatically because it does that here by listening to changes and rewriting what needs to be written. That's how Zustand works, right? So that's why we have all of this. So network, custom network, whenever you add a new network, you make custom networks, this is what is created for you. So, but we don't need more of this because we are going to remove. So that's what storage sync is. You say simplify it, so we are going to remove a lot of things because mobile most of these things. So update the sync to use this. The face is going to be add this, remove web specific optimization. Now, the reason why I'm reading this is because I need to be sure it works for my use case. To just go ahead creating stuff I don't want, which is very important. I said you to be able your LMs, your AI to do what you want to start is extremely important. We need a secure storage also, which is important. Simplify this, and this. So that's perfect. So I would say write this plan to what's the name again? Stores, so that I can track what you are working on, and so that other LLMs that I give the file to can also understand what was done and what isn't completed. Now, basically, this is just for telling you to write. So it's going to understand that okay, it needs to write to this particular file. It exists. I don't need to try creating because creating. The reason why I'm doing this is because all these things we see it do like modify, write to commands are all tools. We call them tools in AI and all these LLM instructions and prompting. We call them working with tools. And AI is good in working with tools nowadays, but they are not perfect. They make mistakes and they can cost you your entire code base. So you have to be very careful. So that happens a lot. So what it's telling me now is that I can see that it's currently empty. You can see what I said the other time. So I need to write this. So you understand, you need to check if it's empty first before writing. You don't want to overwrite some text. And if AI writes to a file for you, you cannot control Z. It doesn't work that way. So you need to be careful, please. And please, and please. That's important. So complete refactor this. Yes, we are going to do that. So I'm just going to tell it to write first of all. So after writing to that file, then we are going to tell it to start modifying it. So once it can completely modify the store, we are going to keep whatever it writes for us. Then we are going to work with the file, the entire application, and every other thing we want to do alongside the base because the store is like the core of everything that works. The store makes everything work for you. Like what I showed you the other time here, the storage sync here, without this, it literally, this entire extension you see here can't function as fast as possible. Let me show you guys an example of what I mean. So if I want to add a network, say I want to add a new network, all I need to do is I will search for, let's think of a network we don't have. In fact, I can just scroll down. So this is just a list of networks I have. These are the networks supported by these wallets. Like I was showing you guys why this is working, right? I'm just trying to like work by time for this. So let's say I want to add Atela testnet. I don't know what that chain is, but let's say I want to add it. All I need to do is click it. You can notice how I search for it, clicked it. I have option to add it to wallet. I have option to learn more about it. I can see the details about the wallet. I can see the RPC, which is selected. It's just one, so I can select it. I can see the block explorers that I can work with. Now, this is, I built this wallet because I needed it. It was like the best wallet for my use case. So all I need to do here is just add to this. And so what I add to wallet, every other thing, if everything is valid, you can see selected RPC point is not valid. So I can't use this. So it's even if I add it to the wallet, it's not going to do anything. So until the RPC is valid, it's impossible to add it. That's a check that was done. So let's pick another one, another wallet that makes sense. Let's look for something. There's a lot of wallet I've not seen, a blockchain I've not seen here before, but let's pick one. Let's say we pick Boba Sepolia. I don't know if this still exists. I don't know. Let's go down and pick a different one, something entirely different. Let's pick. Let's pick something else entirely. Let me just pick Elysium, for instance. I don't know if it still works. You can see still one. If I add this to wallets, if it works, yes, network added successfully. And that is done. So if I view the custom change, you can see I can test the connection if it's working perfectly online. So now you can see immediately I added this now. I didn't need to refresh. I didn't need to do anything. It just worked instantly. That is the power of this storage sync that you see here. All of this you see here, the storage sync, because everything is done. The writing, clearing, stale data, all of those things. So if I check here, immediately you see that listed as what's the name again? Elysium. You can see the chain ID and everything. I don't need to refresh the page. I don't need to refresh anytime you do anything across the page, across the extension. It just works as smoothly as possible. So this is one of the things that was done, like very crazy stuff. So we need that. So now that this is done writing what we need, as you can see, it's very detailed. So even if we give it to another LLM, it knows what to do. So now this is done. I'm going to close every other thing I do not need. I'm going to say, okay, so now that we have written this to the stores, and let's begin the implementation for refactoring the stores. So I'm just going to tell you to proceed with the store refactoring, and that's it. So refactoring the stores just work once. So that's um that's what we are trying to do today on our basic implementation. So first things first is going to try creating a new folder. You see, now I have to refactor this. Let's begin with this. Implementing the stores according to the plan. That's why we have the plan written so that you can make informed decisions, right? So it's going to continue with this. Let me start first create the backup directory and then implement the new mobile storage files. So we have the backup, which we have. The backup is just for it to for storing the information as well. So you can see that all of this is just basic stuff, nothing too crazy. Now this backup is, as you can see here, is making use of all of the things we still need. But storage in this case is coming from mmkv. That's for this from the Zustan storage itself. It's similar to the other one we have. So you can see the reason why we copied it. It's easy. You can just swap in functions that we don't need, but then making sure that it's compatible with mobile implementation. And the storage keys are still the same. The selected network, the network type, account, active account ID. This we can build this in a very simple way that doesn't require all of this. But if you are building a production ready stuff, which the aim of this thing is to do, not just to teach you something shabby, is to show you how you can do it if you are building it in a real world scenario, like practical use case, how you can build it in a way that yeah, this anybody can make use of it and it can scale. Even if you have to add more features, you don't need to start writing the core anymore. So that is what we need this for. So the mobile storage is written. We have the basic functionalities like get selected network, save selected network, get network type. Very, very simple now. We don't need all of those things. Set safeguard sponsorship. This is needed when we get to the settings. So all of these things you see here are basically for the settings files, which is important as we will see eventually. Then we have the storage sync here. Yeah, so this also has been modified. As you can see, there's a lot of things changed or removed. Um, which we are still going to remove a lot of things eventually for ourselves because I don't need most of them. For instance, I don't need the wallet account and the custom account anymore. For funny enough, you don't need custom networks. There will never be custom network implementation for this. It's part of the whole it's part of the whole design choice for architectural choice for this implementation. So we don't need that. And we don't need the wallet account too. We don't need so every stale stuff we won't be using it. So set active account. Active account in this case is the wallet account. Or not, but we don't need that. So get chain by ID. Are we still using this? Yeah, so custom network, we don't need custom network. So these are some of the things I will tell you to remove completely because we do not need custom network. So I will tell you that anything that's to do with custom network, totally remove it. That will be part of our implementation. So we are done. So let's see. I think it's done with this. It's trying to run the tests. I don't want to run tests, but because I'm sure it might not work. We've not even written anything there. So now you can see how fast this is now with everything we've done. Imagine if I'm to write all of this myself, 3 files completely, refactoring and all. It's going to take time, right? Definitely. So he's trying to write tests for it to be sure that everything works, which is a good idea. If we have enough time after we are done with the major functionalities, we can still write tests. Now, I know everything we are doing here is still like just code. We are not even touching the app itself yet, but this is the base for the app we are trying to build at the end of the day. So we need to still do this. It's quite important for us to do so that once we are done with this, effecting this in the UI itself is going to be quite easy. We just copy from here, import this from the store, add it to this, and that's all we are done. Then once we are done with that, then we start tweaking the UI if it's functional, very functional for our use case to make it look like what we actually want. So that's how it's going to be at the end of the day. So yeah, let's see. I think the test is fine. It's creating this. So I'm going to delete this because I don't really want this. It's not going to work. It's going to fail. So delete the test for now. Okay, so what it's doing is creating a summary of what has been done. So let's see. So it's trying to update the file with what has been done. You can see the issue I was talking about. The model usage patterns didn't match anything in the file. So this is when you start having issues with writing stuff. So 2 things I'm going to delete is the JS file you created. I don't want it. The test file you created, I don't want it for now. So we're going to delete that. So I'm going to delete this completely, and I'm going to delete the test file you created completely. So we don't need those two. It's just unnecessary. Okay, it was even trying to create it, so I can just cancel it at this point because I know that everything is fine. So let's see, we've not even started our server. So let's see if there are issues. If there are no issues, let's see if we can reopen our, if everything still works as it should without any issues. Building failed. Why did it fail, please? Not again. Unable to resolve. Unable to resolve this smart contact contracts extension key. Why is this happening? Like, where is this coming from? We've already gone past all of this. Okay, let's see. This is coming from Metro async required, unable to resolve this, validate this, session this. I think I need to rebuild. So I think I need to do that. Just trying to understand why this error is coming so we can like fix it. I think based on the whole crash we had the other time, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see the package first. Package of JSON. If everything is done, no issues. Our packages still remain the same. No problem, I think. As if in this AI hasn't written anything different. Let's see. So it has the UI store gas sponsorship, which I don't need most of this. I don't even think. Do I have any imports that shouldn't be here? I think I do. You know what? I'm going to delete this file. I don't want to delete this storage. Yeah, feel free to delete this. What is this? Okay, so I'm going to delete this. Network validation. Network validation is basically just an RPC endpoint. It doesn't really have any crazy stuff. So that can be done. Okay, now it's beginning to hallucinate. Just stop. I think you are done. So for now, let's resolve all of this. Then get custom network. We don't need custom network anywhere. So I'm going to remove this. Validate chain ID uniqueness. So I'm going to remove this. Okay, so I think we're good. So what is not needed has to leave. Health monitor. This is when we are adding. Okay, I don't need this actually. Network validation. I don't need this. Integration test loop. Helper. Okay, yeah. So we need the helper function to be able to determine some things. That's why we need that. So network config to chain. Nah, I don't need this. I don't need this. But this is important because it's like changing from this is different. We don't need this actually. Okay, but this is going to stay since it's just one file that is missing. So environments. Okay, that's fine. I think we created this for as a native file too. So let's see if there's any other thing from our project here that is not needed. We deleted that. Chains doesn't have any other thing added except for what I added. Storage sync still has one more thing. Okay, plasma has been removed totally. Okay, so let's see, nothing too crazy. So before we debug that one, I needed to be sure that all the dependencies are correct and they are valid. Then we can start again. So I'm just going to reload this and open that in the simulator. I still expect to see the same error, right? But we need to be able to trace it. So knowing fully where it's coming from, which currently I don't know. Unable to iOS bundling failed. Account kit. Okay, so I think I understand that. So let's do this. This might take a while. If I will start building while we are making these changes, but doesn't matter. We are going to be making the changes. We are going to be making the changes, inform changes while we are trying to make fixes. Now, the reason for making all these changes is because we can keep making the changes without even affecting much. Right? Nothing is going to change. So let's refactor some of the things we still don't need. We are going to be working with our visual sense now. So even though we can't see what we are trying to do, let's try making sure everything works fine. So the first things first, we don't have chain metadata anymore. So anything that I don't need here, I'm going to quite just remove, right? So in this case, we already have a storage sync here, which was created for us, which I believe should work fine for. Okay, so he created a backup folder for this. I don't need a backup folder. Maybe that's why it was failing. Uh, yeah, we don't need this. Since we already have all of this, we don't need a backup folders. So we have our UI store. The UI store is perfect because it still retained all the functions, just in a better way for us that works with mobile, right? We are using the actual Zustand implementation now, if I'm not mistaken. Should I have deleted that? I feel like I shouldn't have deleted what I did. Okay, let's see. Let's undo that. Let's see what is inside of it. UI store, middleware. It's literally the same thing. And then we have background this and storage sync, which uses the plasma. Okay, so I can delete it actually. So we don't need it. Okay, so the storage sync here do not use any of those things. It's basically just a all right, so that's fine. So we have our UI store. Our UI store works almost the same way, but just different. So it works similar to what we have. So let's check our build. Starting about 150 minutes. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Oh no, this is terrible. All right, so like I said, we're going to use our intuition here. We're going to be working with our visual. We're going to be leveraging our visual prowess. Even though we can't see what we are working on, yes, it's still a good idea to know that okay, we are creating a store, which, like I said, is going to be store implementation today, and uh, everything we want to work on, which is just visual. So we are going to be using this as a guide. So what have we implemented on the home page and we have not implemented? So first things first, we've not implemented the price detection, but we have an utility function that helps us with that, which we have from here. So initially, what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to use the fetch it price. The fetch it price here is going to be used. So I'm going to tell you to create to use it on the home page for me. I know we can test that currently, yes, but it doesn't matter. We'll find a way to make it work. So while that is happening, I can run expo start here again, just to be sure that there's no other implementation of what we are trying to work with. So now I still expect the error, yes, but so this is just happening because we changed like the directory and all, right? This was still working as at today when we tested at first. There was no error, and we've not installed any other thing aside from the reinstalling from what we installed to or what we pushed to our repo yesterday. So that's basically the changes and the difference. So I assume that's just the problem here, and then we need to just rebuild it, and that should be fine. Or basically, we can implement another strategy here and do this. I'm going to open this build because this build is going to take time, like 150 minutes. We're using the free version. It's going to take like 2 hours, so we can't. In fact, this video will be far done before we are done with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the previous version that worked, which is we had this one working a day ago, yesterday. So we're going to go back to this and we're going to say open this with Orbit. So it's going to download this. It's going to, you can see it's going to download the build, right? Download it into our simulator and then try running it from the simulator. So let's assume the build is complete. If it works, all well and good. We proceed from there. So while we still wait for the new one with our new changes. So that's the plan. So let's see, does this work? Or is it still building? So because this is a bit strange because if you go to our package.json, we have our account kit, right? We implemented everything, and this is coming from smart contract specifically, which is this, and it's saying that it has unable to resolve a particular file, which is the async require.js from node modules. This, right? Import the crypto which is not listed in the export of this, once start falling back to fair based resolution. Yes. So it's trying to resolve this and it's not working. So that's why it's failing. But we can see that it's here and we've not installed any different thing from what we had as of yesterday. So that is extremely strange. So let's go back here. Let me open the topic again. Okay, you know what I'm going to close this since we assume that this is still running. So I'm going to go back here, go back to Orbit, open with Orbit. This is still running. Or do I just close this and tell it to open it again? Okay, so I'm going to close this. Let's see what we can do. So I'm closing this completely and running this again. We can also download this artifact, then open it locally. But it's faster this way because it just downloads it in a temporary directory and opens it. But here we have to download, we have to wait for the download to be finished. We have to then access it and link to it and all of those things. Yeah, it's still basically the same thing, but just feel like this is faster. So we have the options here, as you can see. So I'm going to open with Hobbit again. It's going to build, starting of the device, keeps building. It's running the simulator, it's starting it up. So if everything goes well, the latest build we have that works is what is going to run. So we are going to open it here. As you can see, could not load up, could not connect to the server. Oh, our server is currently down. So we need to, I'm going to close this because, yeah. So let's open it again. Please don't fail. I'm not using the former build. Oh no, it still failed. Okay. So why do we have this? Oh, you know what? I'm going to delete this just to be on the safe side. Reinstall the node modules completely. Assume that is a fresh installation. Then reinstall it again. Let's see if it works. Or if this doesn't work, while we wait for, we know that the build can't complete now because it takes a lot more time. We're using the free tier to like build. It has been fast enough, but I guess there are a lot of people using the build, so it's understandable. It does this most times. It's just unfortunate that it's going to take 2 hours before it gets to our turn. Yikes. So I'm going to run pm install. And let's see how fast that comes back. Okay, so in order not to waste time, why this is working and why this is like still processing, let's do something else. I'm not going to waste time on that. It's still installing, let it do its thing. So we are going to go back to the files we want to make changes to, which are the stores, basically. So we are going to be making some changes. So looking at the store, what do we have here? The first thing we have is the selected chain. We want to have all of these things for configuration purposes. Remember, we have this feature here that when you select the chain, you can see it is loading. The moment you trigger it, it checks if there's network for that particular um, chain, right? Currently, it's just testnet. Like I said, this support only testnet. So it checks if it's available and it's currently available. Like the blockchain is not down. You can see at a glance that it's active. So if I switch the blockchain, it triggers the loading state again. You can see it here, this loading state. Let me zoom in. So you can see this. You can see this loading state here. So it triggers, let me zoom in. Yeah. So you can see it triggers the loading state again. If I switch network, let's say I switch to base, you can see it starts loading, it loads the image. So that is what we need this for. So we also have this to be sure it's checking, which is where the loading state comes in, and then the network type. But in this case, we don't need this anymore because it's just mainnet. But for now, while we are still developing, it's going to be mainnet and testnet. But once we are done with development, it's going to be both of them at once. So we still need that feature. I'm not going to remove that. So for the custom networks, this time around, we don't need custom networks because we are working with predefined networks that are available by Alchemy by default. No need for that. So this is for the team state so that even if you close the app and come back, we know that everything we set is preserved. The settings, time, so it applies to right. How do you know that things are what the store is meant for. Store is just where you store the details of what you want to work with, why the system or the app is no longer active. You can reload where you left off. That's how every major application you see out there works. So the storage sync now does something similar. The storage sync is from here is just loading your data from storage. Like how do you sync from do to the storage? In this case, whatever store you set up, which we are setting up currently. Right, that is why you see we have all of these things. So we have this subscribe to network so that when you add stuff, but most of these things are not needed anymore. So we are basically going to remove them as we go on. Once we are done with our implementations, we clean up what we don't need that won't affect the system, and then we proceed. But some things needs to be cleaned up for now that we don't need, like get chained by ID because we don't need this. So how do I know? We literally don't need any of the custom network. So this is for when you load the selected network. So we are checking if it's a custom network, get chained by ID because there are two different implementations for how this wallet use that check, right? We are working with multiple chains, so we need to be able to dynamically load. But now that we are working with predefined chains, they have the same metadata and the same schema, so we can work with that easily. So it's even easier to work with. So I'm going to remove this. We don't want that anymore. So I'm going to change how we use this. So it's saying that if it's a custom network, convert to chain-like object. So I'm going to remove all of this check because it's not needed. It's probably going to be removed eventually. So in order not to have that issue anymore, we are done. So another thing we have is this is for managing our accounts. As you can see, this is for the active accounts, the account list, and if the user has an account already, so that it will be able to show you different things without having to reload by going to Alchemy. You can do that by just checking the store and just proceeding that to make any informed decisions, UI changes, instant changes, like instant. I like working with instant changes. Anything that is not real time to me is slow. So if it's not real time, it is slow. That's the way I work basically. So I really like having it instant. Whatever I'm working with, instant. Whatever change is going to be making with the app, instant. Whatever update, instant. If it takes time to load, it's already a slow application. Even if it does that in 30 milliseconds, it's slow. So that's the philosophy I like to work with. So I'm going to be using that here as well. So back to the changes we are going to make. So if we removed this, we don't need this because we are not working with custom networks. We are not doing that. So that needs to leave. But we still need to, we don't need custom networks. So we are going to make that remove eventually. But then we have the secure storage. What does secure storage do? Secure storage is just a wrapper that we use for the other stores. And what does that mean? It simply means that you have things like you set up your secure storage instance, which is this secure storage. And once you set up the instance here, we have the private keys for the keys we want to use. In this case, we don't need the private key because it's managed for us. We don't need the C phrases because we are not going to use it. And we don't need the encrypted wallets because we don't want to encrypt it ourselves. But if you still want to import your wallet, we have functionalities for that. So this is still useful for when we get to that point, right? Because we will give you the option to bring in your wallet, but you know that that's your choice. So, but then it's not going to be the default option. So we have this function, or let me, yeah, this is a function that we can now use in this case and access all of this. So how do you store? You already have an easier way, just passing the address you want to store, the private key, and that's that. So this is just for secure storage implementation, basically. So we have that, and what else? I can close this. So let's look at the next thing we have that is important. The mobile storage now has to do with any other thing that is not secure, like a private key or your seed phrase, every other thing that is needed for configurations, for settings that the system needs to remember for when you come back at any point in time. That is why we have the mobile storage. That's the essence of the mobile storage. That's just it. So the next thing after all of the store, we have the store set up now, right? So we need to we need to still create some other functionalities. For instance, remember from, let me reopen this. Let me show you guys something else. Remember when we did the fetch it balance that was showing you guys here the other time? We have this also, this helper function, fetch it balance, fetch token balance, as you can see from the services, right? But is there a way we can fetch balance currently? We can. Now, in this case, fetching the it balance for an address is quite possible. We don't need to do this. The reason why we don't need to do this is because Alchemy already provides us a way to like get their balance. We already did that for the home page, right, where we can get a balance. Or we can also do the same thing for token. Alchemy already provides us some of those things, so we don't need them. We really don't need them. So we can just fetch your tokens, everything you have basically is given to you by Alchemy directly. So we don't need all of those implementations. And yeah, so most of these things are not needed. We only just need the price data for the tokens. Yeah, I think Alchemy should provide. If it doesn't, we can come and pick this implementation because it's useful. But for now, we don't need that. We don't need that. So I'm just going to close this because we really don't need most of the things here. Oh, I need the price. I forgot. Okay, let's go back. So we're going to pick that again. We are going to go to price. I need a price. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I need a price. Why do you keep crashing? What is causing all of this? Please don't give me that same error again. Don't crash anything. So I need a price. In this case, price cache for tokens. Because this implementation we manage for like fetching token prices for different tokens. So this is just when we want to fetch a token. We pass in the token IDs I want to fetch, and then we just get the prices for them. It's a very helpful function, right? These are like basic tokens common tokens that we have. So we can implement this. This function makes a lot of sense because we can have this directly and we can use them. So I'm going to copy this, and I will also copy the NFTs also because NFT does something similar. So I'll copy these two and I'll move them to. So I'll delete this folder because I don't need it before this corrupts my file again. So I'm going to copy this to utils function. Okay, so in order to avoid issues here, I'm just going to add this to VCS. Generate this for me. Okay, so why this generate the commit message? We are just going to add this. It's generated already, so we are going to just commit this. Well, I'm going to create a new branch basically, so we commit the new implementations. So the new branch is going to be called. It's going to be a feature. I'm going to call it stores. So I'm creating a new branch from the current branch. I'm going to call it stores. Stores. I'm just going to call it stores and states. Basically, stores and states, and going to commit that. We're not going to push it yet, but just commit it so that we know that we have structured stuff done. So next thing is to check the utils files here. Can I paste that one I copied? Apparently I can't. So we'll do that later on. It's not compulsory to do that now. Okay, so I have this. I have the storage. So that's basically for the store. So currently we have all the stores implemented. So what next do we need? Like I said, we need this. We need this fetch it function. We need the fetch its price function because we need to display that for our implementation. So I'm going to just tell it to implement this. I want to display this on the home page. So I'm going to add it to the LLM, but this time around I'm creating it in a new task, and I'll tell it that okay, I have this function created. I want to display the price of the price, the equivalent price of the token selected, or let me just say Ethereum of uh, Ethereum chains. I want to display the current price of Ethereum chains on the home page. So the home page is our main index.tsx page. Can you implement this? So it's going to suggest how I'm going to do it for me, right? We already have the function, so it's easy for you to just place it in the right place and use some of the other helper functions to implement this. That should be fast. So it says the user wants to implement this on their page. So let me analyze what I need to do. I have a fetch function in this. I need to use the function to display the price. I should show the equivalent this. So first examine how to use this. I need to import the fetch, create this state to store the here. So we need to create this. So this is important. This is what I'm looking for. So it needs to create a state to store the price. So it doesn't need to fetch multiple times. So fetch the price when the component mounts or when balance changes, calculate and display the USD balance, handle loading and error states. So let me check if there's existing patterns for this. So it checks, and checks. It says based on my analysis, it just needs to create stuff. I'll add a new utility function to format the USD values in this. Update the home component, import the fetch it, create a new value USD function, which is valid, add states for each price, loading status and error handling, fetch each price when component mounts and when loading balance changes. So the best way to have done this would have been to like create a hook that will handle the whole thing. So I just call it, get it, and that's all. So I will tell you to change it to use the hook. So it's easy for you to work. So I'm not going to have to deal with use states. I really don't like dealing with that. So fetch its price when component mounts and when balance changes. Calculate this equivalent of the USD its balance. Display the USD balance alongside the existing balance, which is true. So it's going to fetch the price when it mounts, calculate the balance for the current user, display the USD alongside the balance, then display the logic. This is state management strategy. Display logic. We updated to show this UI integration, this, all of this. So use callback to optimize the price fetching function, which is perfectly okay. So I'll just say I like this approach, but I was considering having a hook that manages all of this. Will having a hook be cleaner and more efficient? Be a more cleaner and efficient strategy, right? If not, explain why. So this is just trying to make everything work out well. So we already have everything almost set up now. We need to just create some of those hooks. Now we are working assuming that we have what we need, which is trying to create this. So even though we don't have our build working, because for some reasons, for some unforeseen reasons that so annoying right now, we can't get this thing to work. But like I said, these things happen in development, but it's not going to affect, it's not going to hinder us from working. We are still going to implement things today that we will work with. We just work assuming that we are working on this directly. So currently we have this, but we don't have the design here implemented, but we have all of the information we need. So we need to start working with information as much as possible. So two things I'm going to do also, aside from doing this, we will have this done. So once we are done with this, we need to implement a name mapping for every account we create. So that means for every account you create, there should be a mapping. So in this case, now when I created this account, a name was generated for it. This doesn't come from anywhere, it's just generated. Account 1, if you check the account, you see account 2, then I can edit this one. And another thing is if I go to the account section to like modify it, let's say I go to here and I go to manage accounts and I like update the name, it's going to pop up this for me. So if I can come to A and I save this, automatically reflects everywhere. Now this instant update, like you can see, it changes here, it changes in the home page, in the accounts page immediately. Now this instant updates and instant changes is what that storage sync handles that I was explaining the other time. So everything syncs across the entire application. So that is the instant real-timeness I like to work with. So that same thing we're going to implement here. Everything has to be instant. Like you don't even need to know you are clicking on anything. That has to be the best experience you've had using a wallet. That's what I'm trying to do. So this one. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to actually make it possible to modify or manage your accounts like this by setting a name for it, and you can see other details. Last used, created on this. You can see I created this November, and that was when I finished this wallet. So yeah, back to this. This is still thinking, wasting time. But we can still be doing other things. So what we want to do now is once we are done, like I said, we are going to create this manage their account name setup. That's the next thing we do. Once we are done with the account name setup, we can virtually, right? We are going to be working virtually now. By virtually create it to look like this with a refresh button. So AI is going to help with most of the things that will just get the UI the way I want it to get. That's our plan for now. So I'm going to do that for the home page. We are going to go to the accounts page, create card, give it a name, the status for the selected card, and add the address. So we are going to 2 pages today with intentions implemented. So by the time our build is complete, you'll see that it's still going to look the same way with the balance also displayed. So yeah, so let's just wait and see. It's going to make a lot more sense. Come on, I'm sure it's not network. Why a custom? So when I provided the instance that it should create a hook that will be much cleaner, it says yes. But then I like the fact that it's going to create a state. It's going to create, like I said the other time. Where is it? It said add state for each prices. No, not this. Okay, maybe that's it. But then I prefer something better because I want it to be able to add the states to the store so that we can also make use of it from there. So currently, network issues, I guess. Probably something else. Right, this is awful. This is just a terrible implementation. I don't know. Everything just keeps breaking. Code issues, and this is also breaking right now. And it stops working. Oh no, not now. And I think this is also gone. There are a lot of issues with today's implementations. I don't even understand what's happening. Okay, so while we wait for this, in order not to waste time, I'm going to go back to the index, and that's for the main. And I'm going to add the section for this view. I'm also going to design that so that by the time we are adding the functionality, everything should work spot on without issues. So that should be done easily. So where do we have that already? So currently what we have looks like this. We have our team toggle at the top. We have our scroll view in the body, which we have address, but we don't need the address anymore. So we are going to remove this. We don't need the Solana address displayed. Okay, we are going to display that below the actual address. But for now, I'm commenting it out. We have the balance, which is also displayed for the user, and it also displays the ticker, or let me say the currency name. So the chain ID is not being displayed, so I'm going to remove that. See, we don't need the chain name, so I'm going to remove that. So 2 things I'm going to do is we want it to look like this, right? So we need to make this view, we need to style this view to be in the center. By default, all views in this use case are always, what's the word to use? They're always in flex column, right? They're in a column view. So we still maintain the column view structure, but we make it we align everything within this detail, right, by aligning it in the center. So it's going to align in the center like this. So the first thing we're going to do, we are just going to give this a default name for now. So I'm going to call it not organization ID, but just a name. So I'm going to call it address one, like this. So this is so that it can be tweaked directly. So user text is has a size of 18. I don't want that. So I'm going to change from using this style. So I'll just use the basic style that is provided because I need it to be like this, very small. Then we have this that's clickable as a button. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to style it actually to give it like text, font size, font semi-bold because it's actually semi-bold. But remember, we created the font yesterday. We used the font yesterday. Now, what I'm doing now is like visually, I'm trying to create stuff without seeing what I'm creating. But I can very much assure you that it's going to look like what we have here. I can almost 100% tell you it's going to look like it because as long as we have the structure being defined, like I said here, the first thing we know is that a view is displayed in a column manner. So if you have item center, it means it's going to center the entire thing like this. Everything will be in the center of the screen, 100%. Next thing is that we can now gap it, right? But the reason why I'm not using gap is because I want it to be like this. We define gap and margin for what we want to have margins for. That's basically easy. So the next thing is going to be why we are done with this. I'm just going to leave this commented out, right? And move all the commented stuff to the top and all the uncommented stuff. Commented stuff down here. So I'm going to add a button because we want to have a button down here too. So I'm going to have a button, and the button is just going to be, it's going to take the style of, the button is going to take the style of our library. So it's going to take the style of the library we have here. So you can see this is the type of button we want, secondary. So because we know it's a secondary button, we just copy this. So we go back here. So I don't need to rewrite it. I just know that I want a secondary button. And so what's the name going to be? Refresh, right? Refresh balance. Remember we are working with this UI. So we are using refresh balance. So two things has to change. The way it is displayed in terms of like the size of the button is large, so we need to make it small because it's actually small here. This is a big button, this is a small button, this is a medium button, right? No, this is also a big, this is small, medium. Okay, small, medium. It's because I widened this one, that's why. So we've defined our refresh balance. So we have this already. So we need to work on the way this is displayed. We see that we have this big text. It's a white color, then this is kind of grayed out. So the same thing is what we are going to apply here. So how I'm going to do this is pretty basic. Same thing, nothing too crazy, nothing too complex. So like I said, we are working with our head now, like they're just top of our head trying to get something to work. So the address is going to be the first thing I implement. For the address, I already know that the text is 18 pixels. That means it is big enough for the address. And we've already shortened the address too. So it's going to display similar to this. But that's not all we need to do. We need to also add the icon, right? So we need to add the ion icons. We need to add the ion icons, the name, give it a name as copy. So we give it a size of 14. That's what we are going because it's actually small. If I do this way, you can see it's very, very small. I'm still going to increase it again. So the size here, I'm sure it's 14. It's not going to be more than 14. So if you don't like the icons, we can always change it. But for now, the icon is going to stay this way. So it's going to be in a button so that when we copy, we have this kind of address copy to clipboard. So we are changing this from being a button, a text, to being a button. Then we style the button the way we want it to look as fancy as what we have here. And you can see the button here is different from the button here, even though it appears to look similar states and all. But this is rounded, the text are bigger, and basically that's all. So two things we are going to do is, since that is the case, there's a way we customize buttons. Like button has its own default configuration that gives it space when you add icons. For instance, let me show you guys what I mean. So if you add an icon to button here, you can see the way it displays here. So if I can add it before or after. So if I show you the code, you can see the button comes before. So that way we are going to create the same thing. We are going to create ours to come after because it's essentially the same thing, nothing different. But the only difference now is that doing this is going to give it an equal spacing. right? But we can always style it the way we want, so it's not an issue. So we're going to style this text to be a bit bolder than what it is currently. So we're going to say class name is font bold, a bit bold. So it's going to be extra bold. It's not going to be black, but it's going to be extra bold. So the color is going to be gray, which the color is going to be just text muted. Now I'm not going to change the color because it's the color of the button, so there's no need changing the color. Um, okay, so for the text, we've already defined that. Define the size. The size is 18, which is good enough. Well, I think 18 is for our use case right now. It's small, so I'm going to make it 20 because and it's not going to be light anymore because now we want it to be like actual bold. So it's going to be fully bold, if I'm not mistaken. We have the bold defined in the layout. I think we have the bold defined in our layout. Not this one, this one. So yes, we have Molly bold defined. So we are going to be using the bold, not the semi bold. So I think there are more fonts we can use aside from the bold. But let's just be sure we have the bold, we have the black, if I'm not mistaken. No, just bold. Okay, so I think that works for us and our use case. So that means the address is also defined. Like I said, we are working virtually right now. I don't know how this is going to look, but I believe it's going to look something similar to this. I really wish I could show you guys before we conclude this. Like I said, two things are going to be working today: integration and states, right? And those are the basic things we are working with today. And this is also crashed, basically crashed. Okay, so I'm going to leave this out to just continue this thing. I'm going to Okay, so while this is working, we're going to have another text here. So we're going to change the text here to be, okay, this is going to be the default text, but we're going to make this a bit smaller. So now we are done with the button. Let's go to the text, the balance itself. So the icon size is 14, which is very okay based on what we are trying to create. So we assume we are done with this. So let's go to the next one, which is the balance. So for the balance, we need to, this is how the balance is displayed, and the ticker name. So we need to move all of this into this text here. So it maintains the color. So we have this, then with that the ticker shows beside it. So that's exactly what we want. So we need to move all of this inside of the text here and give it a different color of text muted, I think. Muted foreground, muted. Okay, text muted is fine. So in this case, we don't need the name anymore because the name, we just need the ticker name or the currency name in this case, which is ETH or Matic or whatever it is that we are working with. In this case, we don't have Matic. I'll show you guys here. But if I click on all of this, I think all of this is the same name. Avalanche is the only one that uses Havax, but it's not being displayed here because it's still loading, I guess. Okay, it's done. Okay, so I think that's a bug, something like that. The app chain 2 does the same thing. The Lisk should show you it, if I'm not mistaken. Then same thing applies to Sepolia. I think something is broken actually. Base Sepolia, same thing. Ojigalumi. So this is the idea. This is what we are trying to like recreate, right? So we understand this is what we are recreating. So the currency name is going to be all capital letters. So I'm going to call it uppercase in case it is not uppercase already. So it's going to be fully uppercase. So it's not going to be using this default text. It's not going to be using the text of the button because it's different. So I'm going to go back to using this or using this. So I'm going to remove this style from it, which is the user text, the margin bottom, and all of those things. We are not using that. So I'm going to remove the style completely. I'm going to change it to uppercase and muted. So it's going to have this dark gray color. Then the size of the initial text is going to be way bigger than this one. So the size of the initial text, if I'm not mistaken, is extremely large. So this one is going to retain the text's base, I think. So we can leave that here. This is the default size, so it's still bigger than base, so it's going to be large. So that means the text for this one is going to be it's actually a bigger font. It's going to still be white, but it needs to be way bigger than what it is currently. So the user text was used for the address, so we still can use this for the address too because the address is just in the size. We used that for Oh yeah, for the address works, not for the name. So for the name, we have something else. Yes. So the same thing we have for the name. We can't use the same for this. For this, this is way bigger. So we are going to increase the size of this to it's going to be text 2XL because it's extremely bigger than 20. So this is going to be 2XL. And then this is going to be approximately the size of or the value of this token. So in this case, now this is going to be this size. Then we're going to give it a bit of margin left. I'm going to 2 so that there's significant space between not too much. So significant space between the items. So this is going to look like this. Then the next thing we have is this approximation for the balance. So let's go back and add that. It's going to be a dummy text for now until we add the actual token. So also I'm going to create so I'm going to create a view, put this, wrap this into a view, right? Because we have 3 different components. We have 2 text. This is one text. This is another text, and this is this. So this is in the row category. This is column. So we need to define 2 rows first of all. So we need to define them in columns first, then two different rows rather, then 2 different columns for the first row. So that's what we are doing. So in the first case now, this is going to be how it is structured. Then we are going to have this, which is the text, which is this one here. So it's going to be approximately, I think the approximate sign I used, I copied it from here. Show me something for crying out loud. Okay, so I'm going to use approximate. I copied that from, where's it again? Why is this laptop misbehaving this badly? What's up? Are you running? Oh shit. And selecting emoji just almost crashed my laptop. No, this is sad. Apple, what is this? This laptop just got misbehaving since I installed all of these things. Okay, so let's just look for an approximate. Like I said, or just close it. Like if you're not working, just go away. Like you make everything stop working. Oh, no. Okay, so we have the styles there. I wanted to add the equivalent, the approximate text, but for some reason, chose not to add that. I think Apple has a way of adding it automatically, if I'm not mistaken.
It's 18 hours.
This is it. So the approximate text is just going to be, if you are using a Mac, you can just press Option and X. It's going to create the approximate text for you, which is what I used initially, I guess. Then we are just going to put a number for now. So the number is going to be in dollars, and it's going to be approximately, let's say 2.45, similar to what we have here, 475. Right. So this is what is going to happen. So currently we have all of this implemented. This. Yeah, I know we can't see it currently, but trust me, that's what we have implemented. Second thing we have is to implement the account, and the account section is just the card we need. Okay. I need to work. I need to change something here. Probably revert my upgrade. I just don't like this. So we're going to work with this. The next thing is we have the card, right? And the card implementation is what we need to implement something similar to what we have here for the account. So when you click it, you want to have something like this: the name, the active, then the copy button, and the text, and then the balance. Something similar to what we have. So 2 things needs to happen. We need to have like I want to make this a component that always returns the account balance for whatever account you pass into it. So that means we can reuse it across multiple aspects like this. So that works. So I'm going to ask if this AI is back. from whatever nonsense is happening to it currently. We'll tell you to create that. I think I'm just going to do this. Update. You can't update when you are not even working yet. I'm still not going to give you that pleasure of updating now. Okay, no, just do it. Oh, no. Okay, so we have this, the text here. So that's all. So let's work with the card, right? I'm just going to copy an example code from the card that we need. And we're just going to copy that and make use of it. So we know that we don't need all of these extras that we have here, but we need to other copy the card so we can style it, card, and copy the content. We don't need the footer currently. So add that. We currently have our card. So I assume that the home page is working for now or is complete for now. It's not perfectly complete. We need to implement the tokens. It's probably we've not even gotten there yet. We want to first implement all the other things we need first of all, then talk about the tokens, which we still need to implement too as well. So that's complete. So let's go to the account, right? So for the account, we need to go to account.tsx. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Hopefully that is not too problematic. Okay, it's coming back up. Okay, so yeah, I don't care about it. Just work. That's all I care about right now. If you work, well and good. Work so you can create the other stuff we need. Oh wow, website finally. Okay. Let's see. This is back now. Resume task. All right. Let's see if we can get it to resume this and implement it. So then we should be able to see other things. Okay. So why that is ongoing? Remember from the account, we want to add the card to it. Oh my god, something is too slow here. It's just too slow. What is happening here? Jeez. I sure I won't downgrade this upgrade that I did. So annoying right now. Laptops don't behave this way. It's just worse. Okay, yeah, so we have the custom hook. But while before we come back to the hook here, which is working now, what I need to do first of all is I need to add that card. So we have something similar to, so I'm just going to copy the card first, then modify it to what I want to have. So currently we have this view that shows you add new address for the footer. Then inside of the page, we have something like this. So I'm going to paste this, right? So I'm going to import the card because it's going to complete, definitely. So we do not have card, then we need to import card header too as well. We need to import card title, we need to import card description. But funny enough, we don't need all of this because we don't need the title and description. The reason why we don't need it is let me show you. In this case, we don't need this. Okay, we still can make use of it. We can make use of this too. We can make use of this and this as our title and description, but it's basically still the same. Whether we tweak it or we don't use that, and then we can use this as our actions because card should have actions, I guess. Maybe this doesn't have action, but for chat CN it does have action. So I'm using the idea from there. Okay, I don't think this one has actions. It doesn't. Okay, so it doesn't. Okay, still the same thing. So we have labels here, but we don't need all of this all of this full stuff inside of here. We do not need it. We don't need the input. We don't need the label. So I'm going to remove that. We don't need the footer also. We don't need that. So I'm going to remove that. Two things we need. We need even the title and the header might not be fully needed, right? I know we really need the account name and the account address, the copy button, optional badge that tells if it's active, if it's the current active account. If I select this account, account 2 is selected. If I go back, it becomes the active account. Everything is instant. Like I said, that's what we are trying to achieve. Everything is instant. When you click this, it loads the balance, it loads the network, it gets the equivalent automatically. This also happens to 2A. You can see the balance for 2A is different from the first one. So everything is reactive, like extremely reactive. So that's what we are trying to implement as well. Our app also has to be extremely reactive. But then because of the whole build issues that we've been having, it's been quite slow to work with. And I apologize for that. I know it doesn't give a feel of yes what we are trying to do, but hopefully we can get it to make more sense. So like I said, just we are trying to implement this virtually. I'm using my head to like beat the design. I'm sure it's okay. It's going to work as I expect. First things first, I'm going to remove this max weight because this is a card. I want it to be full. I want you to take the weight of the mobile itself, the mobile weight. So it's going to be full like this. I want the account one, which is the text, to be a bold text. So what I'm going to do is I'll basically implement all of this inside of the content, right? Because I just want to change it. So I'm going to have the card header removed because I don't need it. Uh, yes, I don't need it inside the header. So I'm also going to remove the padding. Padding is going to be like 2, very small, because for the actual card is always very big. The default is always large. So I'm going to reduce this to be a smaller padding. You can see the difference between the one by the right and the one by the left. It's extremely rounded the same way, but the padding is actually the same. So I'm going to reduce it both top and vertically. So vertically and horizontally. So I'm reducing it by 2. So I'm going to make it pattern of 2. The content itself is where you have everything inside. So the first content is just like this flex 1, which is what I want. I want it to take the space, and then the other one takes the balance. So flex 1 and gap perfect usage for what I want to implement. So I'm going to call this my account 1. I'm going to make this dynamic by calling it this. Then this is going to be the address. So how do we know the address? Currently, we need to use the same trick we use for this to get the address, the balance, which is do this, then fetch it in the use effect and all. But you see the problem here is because it's not scalable that way. We need to reuse it in multiple places. So we need to find a way to move it to our store. So we just have a single call from the store everywhere, and we know the account balance is always updated. So that's one of the reasons why we have our store as well. So we need to do that ASAP. But before we do that, I want to come back to this place and see if you can implement um the hook that I said we are going to need. So excellent question. Using the custom hook, we've been watching the cleaner, blah blah blah. This. Exactly, it can be reusable. So we need the hook for reusability, separation of concern, performance optimizations, cleaner code. And because we are making a call here, we don't want to do that inside our store, right? It's best to separate your server state from your client state. So in this case, Zustand is our client state. So, but because I'm using this call, I can't add it. I would have preferred to add the price in our Zustand, right? But we can't do that. We find a way to optimize eventually so that we don't call multiple times. So we are going to implement caches. So the caching is only going to change when the balance changes. As the balance of your wallet changes, that's when it's going to be calling. It's going to trigger the cache to be cleared and initiate a refresh and all of those things. We will implement that eventually. Let's start with the basic implementation first. So he said updated plan, create a new custom hook, use it price, implement all of this. So you can see everything inside. It will implement the loading state and the fetch state and everything. Another way we can also do this is use React query, but I think React query already exists within this application. If I go to the account, Alchemy session provider, yeah. So in the Alchemy session provider, we can see React query being used here, which is the query client. Query client is coming from Tanstack React query, so it works. So you can basically use React query as a way to fetch it, but because React query works perfectly well for catching state and all of those things, we can use it. And let me ask can we use React query instead for the fetch? Since React query is perfectly optimized for making calls, fetches without having to manually manage state, optimistic updates, and other features. State management. So that would be like the easiest way to do it because React Query already provides us all of those things. So I know it's going to say yes. So it says 4 things we can do. Okay, so other things you have to do here. You say there's enhanced hook features, optional but recommended, global state integration. So consider integrating with to stand for global price states. So that way we can use it once and use it everywhere. And there's retry with backoff, as you can see here. So it's already giving me everything I plan to do. So if you can do that once, that's going to make life easy for us, right? So excellent choice, React query, within DMA, better choice, blah, 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 this, use effects. There's no need for adding that. Optimize caching, then plan for this query key fetcher. We're going to use the same thing. So add USD utility function, simplify DOM component, global query client setup. If not configured this setup already, then I don't think I want to do this again. I'm already feeling skeptical because I want to set up something else that might break the code. I don't think I want to do that. Is React Query already set up? No, we already have just the Alchemy Alt session provider, which I think I'm comfortable with. I don't want to spoil this worse than it is currently. Then optimistic update for future features. If you later add price alert or similar features, you can always make that change. DevTools, nah. Okay. Do we need to manage this in Stand since we are now using React query for this? So this should help us to like completely eliminate the need for having to wait. But why this is implemented, like I said, we need to, going back to the account, we need to implement something else, which was the balance. We need to find a way to like copy the balance to work somewhere. So I'm going to also create a reusable component for balance. It's going to be part of the state. We should not manage this to stand. It's try to be an anti-pattern. Server state, external store or this client application. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. So it's perfectly okay here. All right, let's do that. Yes, proceed with the clean React query only approach. Let's go. So once this is done, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to implement that balance. Then we're going to still add other features to it. Like remember, we have this, we are working with this already. So we need to create a component for this. But this also means that when we have our state already implemented in the store, we can always create a component that fetches from the state, passes it to whatever component needs to fetch from Alchemy, and do all of those things neatly and cleanly, and then return it for us. And we can always use it here as multiple components at once. So it makes it cleaner than what we have currently. That just makes it perfect. So we have this also, right? Currently we have this. So we have already implemented this. The balance is going to be loading significantly well. It's going to work with the network. So everything has to be tied together. That is why we need to also manage that in the store. So once this is done, then we can significantly have this also managed. So we need to manage this. We need to create this so that we can manage the account also by assigning names and all of those things to it. So let's wait till this is done. Plan created, setup. So it's checked that React query is set up because we already have it in the Alchemy Alt session provider by default. So we are sure that it exists. So it's going to just implement that, create a hook for it, implement that in the hook as suggested. In GSS, replace the balance section, which exactly that's what I'm trying to do. So he already knows what he's trying to do. Implement that and replace it with okay. So let's just allow you to do his thing, right? Since I've already given it the UI component. So act and continue. So it's going to undo all of those things. Create it. Once it's done creating it, I'm going to also continue with the design. Okay, why I can't implement the design, why that? So I would want to tamper with what is writing. But we also have this here that we can use to change and modify our account. So remember, we have this also. We are going to have this last used and this. So which is going to be that. But for now, we are just going to stick to account. So once we are done with account, we now start integrating all of this. But currently, remember that we've integrated this, and this now. We have this. So we're just trying to make sure this is accessible everywhere by creating it in a store, right? So we need to move that to a store. So two things, we need to move the balance to a store. So as according to what is written here, once this is done with it, we should have that perfectly implemented. As you can see, calculated USD value for my balance. So that means my balance here needs to change. We need to now create that balance to move to the store so that it can work from there. So that will be our next implementation, our next feature to implement. So currently, I know we cannot check this because of the issue with our build, but still trying to figure out why this is a problem, because even the version here is so wrong, because we're not using 4.82, we're using 4.52, which I'm extremely sure is 4.52. I'm trying to understand why. This is it, 4.52. How are you installing 4.82 for it? I'm sure it has to do with this, like count kits, smart contracts. Okay, let me see if I can fix this. So account kit smart contract, we have account kit contract distribute, dist function, dist folder, ESM source, MA, MSCA plugin, session key, extension.js. So what is the issue? Bundling fail, unable to resolve. Resolve what? Buffer util. Okay. So unable to resolve buffer util from this. So okay, let's see if this is done. First of all, I'm not going to waste time on that. All right, so this is done. Let me close this. I'm not going to waste time on this since we already have something else focused on. I'm sure once I build that, everything should be fine. I'll try implementing that so that before we come back for the part 5 of the series, we already know we are fully integrating. Just stores should be completed by then. So checking this, let's look at what it has done. So we have the files that have been changed. It created a new file called use it price. Let's look at what is in use it price. Use it price. So what does it do? How does it work? First thing it does is use queries here, creates import React, imports the fetch it from the utils which we had here. Now fetch it from CoinGecko, as you can see, using their API key. So it does that, and the next thing we see here is it creates the key that React query is going to be using to determine when to refetch. Basic standard stuff, nothing too crazy. It's the same thing, same way you use it in the web, it's the same way you use it here. But some other functions that are there, like configurations like the stale time, the refetch interval. So how long does it take to refetch? It has to refetch every minute. So this is automatic. So we don't need to do any state management for you to refetch or start polling stuff. So this is cleaner. This is why we did it that way. So refetch on window focus, I will not really like this because I want it to refetch on its own, not even when I focus on the window. But this is cool for now for development purposes. In production use case, I will remove that to be false. I'm not going to use that. So retry delay should be 3, I think. That's a very fair amount. So, but then that can be with trade-off and back off as well. So use calculated USD value is the hook that is going to use this hook again to now return the actual value for me with the price in USD. So if I'm not mistaken, if we could run this, right, let's look at how many places we've used this. We used it here and we use it here. So I'm not going to waste time with this, right? We've already started with changes that I want to make. So this is all well and good. Next change we want to implement here is for the balance. So I don't want this balance being done here. There should be a better way to do it. So two things we are going to say is that, okay, so this is fine. Let it load this. And then once it's done with this, we tell it to implement the balance completely in another aspect. So, okay, let me just allow it to finish with this. So it's completed. Okay, so create a new file. So the new stuff I'm going to do is check. I'm going to add this to context. I'm not going to give it instructions. Looking at this code logic, we cannot use balance in multiple places. You cannot use a wallet address balance in multiple places. Which means it is not reusable without creating duplicate code. Can we move this logic to, okay, no, I don't want to suggest it. How do you suggest we rewrite and make this reusable across the project by app? So I want you to suggest using the store itself, because this should be moved to the store. That's the best way. That's the best practice. So I don't suggest to move it to store and then implement it in a certain way. So I just give it, how do you think it should be done? So what it's going to do here is going to look at it and say, okay, what we need to do is we need to move it to the store, right? You can see it's checking the hook structure, the store pattern, the type used for account, and all of those other things. So it's checking the UI store to understand, checking the account type, and seeing what we have. So the account type is account.tx. So accounts.ts is coming from store, from the types, which is what I'm looking for. Oh yeah, this is it. So this is what I'm looking for, this account type. So from here, you can see wallet accounts, the private key, all of those things, the token balance, stored accounts, transaction history, all of those things. So which you might not even need eventually, but we can always fix that. So you say, based on my analysis, I can see the current balance fetching has several issues and opportunities for improvement. Here's my comprehensive plan. Code duplication is embedded directly in the components. Balance is fetched every time without proper caching strategy, which is important. Inefficient real query usage. The project always uses this for its prices, but not for balances. So create hook that we can use for fetching the balance, which is a way to do it. It's a way to go about it. Update the UI store to include balance catching, which is the perfect way to go about it. So we create the hook, reusable hook first, move the hook to the store, and then refactor it to use it. So now this is the perfect way to use it. As you can see, it's going to create the hook first, use account balance for the particular address you are working with. So that means we can use it for multiple addresses. So once we do that, next thing we are going to do is we are going to fetch it. Since we know that we are fetching that from clients.getBalance, and we know we have our clients automatically. So two things needs to happen. I need to move the client out of this place. Like I said, move it to a modular aspect. So I understand that the utils already have that implemented, which is it the utils now? Context, no. Components, no. Lib, no. I thought I saw it at that time. Utils for this one I copied, but before I copied, there was something he needs. Signer, yes. So there's a signer here. We don't need the signer, so we are just going to copy utils and create client. I'm going to call it client. So it's going to call client.ts. So client.ts is just going to be removing this code base here. So just the way we have signer here, right? You can see signer is literally same thing, but let me say similar. Kind of, not exactly, but similar, because we have the client here, which is coming from, but let me say it's similar to this. It's just the type, so we can always return this. So we can always export this just the same way we export the signer, like this. Export const signer to be this. So we can export client and it's loading client as well, which is the same use client stuff. So we don't need to always reinitialize it. We can always initialize it once, anywhere we want to use it. And I don't think it's best because it's a hook. But then I still want to play with this because yeah, I think it's okay because then we can always use it in multiple places. So this is fine. This is fine for our use case. This is fine. So it's going to create a combined hook, balance hook with USD value, so that you can return everything from one hook without having multiple hooks as well. So it's going to use that here, replace all of this with one single stuff, and it's reusable. So proceed with this implementation, follow the project rules. So you can see it's following the project rules we have here. So I will say yes, proceed with this implementation. So it's going to proceed with this. So I'm going to ask it to, so it's going to ask me to turn it on to act mode. I will turn it on to act mode. It will do the same thing. So basically we've done two things now, right? As you can see here. So once you switch to this, it will create all of those things. So I'm going to switch to it to start creating that. So once it is done creating that, we are going to have a more structured view, right? So two things now, we are using our store more, so that way it is being cached. And the reason for using our store, like I said, is that reactivity. We want that real timeness. We want that instant feedback, instant usage, instant action, and instant result. So once we click it, we want to see the result. Once we do this, we want to see trigger. And once it's something that should cascade across multiple pages, multiple files, we want to see it happen immediately without having to wait or having to do all those other things that we do. So this is the essence. You can see the extension working like an actual mobile app itself, the way it works, the way it moves. It doesn't have all these loading states. There's no loading anywhere, except for if you are loading something for the first time. The only thing that loads is when I'm fetching data from here, which is when you are fetching from ad network, which is this part. That's the only thing that loads across the page. And you can see how fast it works because it actually cuts out as well. And I've shown you guys how this works too. You can always add new wallets to it by checking the other things. You can view, you can move out, you can check. Everything here is being checked and is reactive. So everything works almost immediately. It checks again to be online, then it proceeds. The moment you go back to the home page, it's already added it to the network. You can see the network rebooting automatically. So it's making use of that decision, the informed decision, and you can add it as a network and you can make use of it. Straightforward. And it's going to check the activeness of that network every single time, periodically as well. So all of these things are working, but it is still as fast as possible and as clean as possible, as clean as it can get. So this is the same thing we are trying to implement and bring to this. So it has to make sense that way. So now, going back to this, let's look at our main.index, looking at the changes that have been made. Certain changes have been made, right? One of the changes made here is there's a balance here, which you can see from user account balance. So once we fetch that, this might still be undefined, right? So we'll call it null. It can be null. So user account balance is returning null begins or undefined, right? So which is the result of the data that is being returned here. So this is giving us an error. So this is one way we can fix it is by what is really good review. So I'll just say fix this error. So once this is done, we already have this working, right? So that means this is fine now. So if you go back to the main page, the home page, you will see the way it is now using the balance. It's just a single hook and it's added to the store as well. So we are going to see all of those things in action. Let this conclude so that we can fix it, because changing this requires to go and move it in other places or set it as undefined. Yeah. Okay, so that's fine. So let's really fix that. Now this is not to make sure that it is available, but for now we can always make this work. We will still make all of these changes eventually. Or basically, there's no need to be doing this. Okay, no, let's leave this for now. It's best if it's undefined, so we can always have a way to catch whatever. Whenever it doesn't exist, we can catch it at the UI side, and then we can probably add loading state and other functionalities that make it seem like it's loading or still pending. So we can add like a suspense loader. We can add all of those things. So we can do that. No issues. So proceed while running for this to be complete. So let's go to our main and see what has been changed. So currently we can see that the use effect is gone. We do not have the use effect anymore. That's the first thing we can see is out of here. We see just one hook here, which is the user account balance with USD. So the USD value is also calculated. What is this? Writing test for it. Okay. I don't need to write test for it, but all well and good. Okay, this is suddenly just smarter. The LLM is smarter. I noticed the difference in the way it works and gives me results. It doesn't work this way before, but now it's extremely faster than it was before, or how it works before. And which is cool. So I'll try resolving this error right before once I'm done with this, I'll try resolving it. It shouldn't happen. I don't even know why it's happening. I know once we are done building, this error should literally clear off. Right? I'm sure. But just sorry about that, guys. Like this is one of the challenges. So yes, so this is done. Yeah, we're done with this. So I don't need the tests, right? Like we literally don't need the test, but it's fine. It has created it. So we're just going to assume it is there. Balance with tests. We're just going to assume it's there, but we don't need the test. Okay, so I'm going to close this out of way. So what I'm trying to show you guys is that we can now the way we have the balance. If you look at the way it's now displayed, you can see just displays the button, which is here is this we have here. That's this account address that is shortened with the copy button itself that we had. Look at how it's displayed now. So all the way it's displayed is just this. So just create a condition to check if it's not loading, there's no error, and my balance to string exists. Then it converts it to format it up for this first of all before going to the USD value. So it creates this, then all from one single to my balance. So where does my balance come from? My balance comes from the hook that we got here, which we created with USD. So you can see that it returns the balance and returns the USD value as well. So it returns those two things. And the USD value is what we use down here. So with just a single hook, we've been able to get every single thing we need. So this is cleaner. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a component, right, for the account. The component is whenever I pass an account here, I should be able to get this. So we are going to create a component. So I'm going to tell you to create a component here as well. Okay, so nicely done. Create a component. Now, do we need to create a component? We don't need to create a component because now we have a hook that does that for us. And we can always use the hook also for the account because if you do this, we can get the address, right? It's optional. So you can always pass it, get the balance and render it. So I think that's fine. We don't need a component for it. So the next thing we're going to do is once we are done with this, we already rendered this. But now how do we get the balance, right? So let's go back to our accounts. Accounts is we already have our card, right? So what we were waiting for before was the balance of that address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same thing that is in balance, which is literally the same thing. Paste it here. Now that we have a hook that we can use across board. And remember that that is added, if I'm not mistaken now. I don't know if this is stored to the store. I'm not sure. But let's check our account balance to see. The get balance. So it's using React query actually to make all these queries. And it's adding it to the store balance version. Okay, so you can see there's this balance version here. The balance version is coming from the store, which is what we have here. Store.balance version. As you can see here, balance refresh trigger for reactive balance update. So we see that we use that also here, but we are not using it within this code base at all. So we still need to find a way to use it so that it doesn't refresh. But for now, let's test that this refreshes before we start talking about catching the values. We want to be sure they refresh so that we can know that our implementation works. Because once we start catching, we can't really know if something has changed or not until we clear the cache and re-implement it. So this is perfect for now. We'll still make sure it's way better than this. So going back to accounts, we need our balance, which we already have. So we need to display the balance here, which we already created. We've created this, so we need to create that as well by adding this to, we are going to create our balance here. So the same way we have it in the main, which is not just balance, but also the chain, the currency dot symbol, right? We're also going to copy the same thing. So we're going to copy the same thing and add it to this place also. We already have our balance here, which is my balance. So I'm not going to call it my balance anymore. I'm just going to call it balance because it can be for any address. So in this case, this is supposed to be a loop where we pass in the balance and all of those things, and then we return the value. But for now, we can always do that. It's not really an issue per se. So we still need to make this a component so that we can pass in that into it and then render it as a component. So we can create the component here. It's not really an issue. I'll call it export function and call it account balance. So the account balance is going to take in, it's going to return this. It's going to take in the balance of this. It's going to take in a parameter called address of address type coming from VM. So it's going to take in an address of that type and it's going to return for me. So we can also make this a hook, right? But no, we don't. I want to make it a component that returns something like this for us automatically. So what it's going to do is going to return a text. Automatically return a text. To this and this. So it's going to be returning the text for me that we have here. So what it's going to return? So it's going to return this for me and this. So the chain is going to be just const chain equals to use chain like this. And that's it. We are done with that. So balance here is undefined, so we can't be sure. So what we are going to do is if not balance, if is loading. So that means if it's loading, render something else. Return. So we can return the skeleton for it if it is loading. And how do we do that? We go to our skeleton and just copy something like this and add it to it. But we don't need the entire thing. We only need like one of it, which is this. So we just return this, automatically return the skeleton here. So we import the skeleton from, you can see here. So we've imported that. So what we are saying is import the skeleton, give it a width of 250, which is too much in our use case. But we can just call it maybe like 80, right? So it's very small and still works rounded. Same thing. So if that happens, if it is loading and not balanced, just show this. So that means this will clear this error because now it's not this. So it says it's not assignable to this balance dot. Let's look at our main. I'm just trying to add all of this before we wrap up so we can see the way we are fetching and integrating the values. Right. So we have my balance from here formatted to ether balance and to way, and the same thing is going to happen here. Okay, so we're good to go with this. So this is what we get. So we can use this account balance component inside of this place. So we can just call it account balance. So this account balance component can now be extracted into another component itself. Call it account balance because it's still going to be used in the settings page. Remember that. So, but we don't need all of those things for now. So we can always let me remove unused imports since we are not using all of those imports. So we are going to move this out eventually, right? And passing the account balance. So in this case, the address here is going to be the address that will pass to this because this takes an address of address type. That makes sense. So our account balance here is going to take in the, it's not compulsory. It's going to be optional because if it doesn't pass it, it's going to return the same thing. So it's still the same thing here. So we are going to pass in this account balance here is going to take in an optional account since it's not the same option. This is not assignable to OX string. I've already changed that. So we are going to do this. that's why it was throwing the error. So you can see the error is gone. So we can add an optional address. The address is going to be the for loop. So we are going to still have a loop of addresses that we have created. So this is a good way to create this component now. So we have all of this currently. So this is going to be the address, my address, just the same we have in the main, whereby I have my wallet address, which is my, we don't need to have a hook for this because I just have user, and like as you can see, I have my wallet address already, which is user.address, right? Which is what we shortened at the beginning. So same thing is going to happen here. I'll just copy my user here, use user, and then I'll paste in my, so I don't need this inside of here. Okay, that's fine. So I'll just use the use user here. I'll say user dot address, and that's it. I already have that. I can also add my Solana address if I want to as an optional text. But so far so good, we have it. So if I want to shorten the address, I can shorten the address to by passing shorten address, and I wrap it in shorten address. We can have an optional stuff here and give this here so it works. So that's complete, that's perfect, right? We're able to go on this front. So we don't have anything to worry about here. So that means you successfully done this, but we've seen the copy button. So we need to go back and add one last thing to it, the copy button here. So the copy button is going to be what we added here to the description. So we are not done. So two things we can do is to make it easy, we can add the text here. So it will look like this and give the text or not, because we want it to look like a card. So we can, let's see if it has the card design, the color of the card is there. So we can literally just add a text for our icon and call it copy. So that size is going to be 14, let's say 16. 16 is okay in this case. So we're going to give that. So it's going to retain the color of this. So we're going to give it text muted. So we are giving it this and wrapping it in text so that it's automatically takes the color of the parent itself. So that's what we are going to do to that. So currently we're going to have this. We're going to have this text here based on the component we created. Now, but we need to configure the component to look like what we want. So it's going to be text, font bold, because I want it to look more like this. So actually bold or text muted like this. So maintain this. The text, the sizes are the same, so there's no need configuring the sizes. So we are going to leave the skeleton if it's still loading. So we have a loader state, we have all of those things. So we can do that. We can also have a loader here for if this is loading or user is still loading or stuff like that. So we can also do something like user dot okay, we don't know. We can always make that if it's loading, then we can put it from there. But then we need a badge. The reason for the badge is so that we can implement this that we have here, the active. So how do we do that? We can just copy the badge that we have here. So we copy this, we use that automatically in our code base. And yes, I know I'm still working virtually, but I'm using the mental picture of what we understand from here to create what we want to see. So the active simply means if it's the active account I'm working with. For now, it's just going to be one account. So that's always going to be the active account. So it's going to be added in front of the account, which is what we have in the title here. So that is going to be created this way. So I'm going to create a text for it, and I'll paste the badge in. No, I'll just paste the badge directly in front of it. No need for the text. I'll give this a class name of gap to be 2, so that it gives it that gap. Same thing applies to the description. So the badge first will be downloaded from. Okay, so that means I don't have badge installed, so we can't. So in order not to throw error, I'm just going to comment this out and add the badge component to it. So apparently I don't have it installed. I need to copy it, install it, go back here, go here, paste it in, install the badge. So once this is done, we can automatically just. So I'm going to do this. There's one comment it and import it directly from React Reusables. So I'm going to wrap up in like next 5 to 10 minutes. So even if we can't see this, I'm just using this to wait for if maybe probably the build will be done by now, but I'm not sure it's done. But we can still check. Be fast, be done, be fast, be done, be fast, be done. not installed yet. Okay, fine. So we are good now. So let's check now. We can see, yeah, component badge. So we've added that automatically. So I should be able to change the styling to, let's say, BG green, because I want it to be the same green color I have here with white text. So it should maintain the same view as this. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy. So then you can see how much you can style it to look as how you want it to look like. So this is going to retain, and this is going to be, the text is going to be text foreground, because we want to maintain the text of the foreground, or we can call it white if you want it to be white without dark mode or light mode. So that is going to be what we have. So currently we have this created. The only thing we need to do next is to implement a for loop pattern once we have multiple accounts, and then we add that back to the store, then fetch it from the store just like we did currently, and look through it, and it should be displayed. Just very simple stuff. Then we are going to add the add new address also by creating a dialog, but that will be done when we click this. So how do we know that happens? When we click the dialog, we move this to a dialog that we can create here, but I don't need to re-implement this dialog. What I'm going to do is I'm just go back to this place, copy it since the dialog is similar to what we have, and then implement the create function for it. So I can basically do that, but we're going to do that starting in the next part of the series. So doing that and also implementing this. So implementing this is more like another code that we want to work with, but we can always do it eventually. So this is what we have for today. And so successfully we've done 80% of what we have on the home page, aside from the tokens, which we've not implemented because we need to fetch this from Alchemy. So it's basically straightforward, but we are not handling tokens yet until we are done with the basic functionalities of wallet, sending, receiving, settings, and history. Once we can see all of those things, then we implement the tokens. So we are moving step by step, not trying to rush everything at once. So tomorrow we are going to complete all of the home page so that we can actually see what we've done so far by adding the QR code, adding the network. We already have the network functionality, remember, but it's just that it doesn't show what we want. But we can tweak it to make much more sense. So like this is what I mean. Going back to the main, let me even tweak that a bit to see. So if you go back to the header that we created initially, we already have the theme toggle, we have the pressable button here. So we can have a class name for it by giving it a gap of 2 so that between the avatar, okay, no, that is wrong. The pressable is just for the menu, so we don't need this. So the avatar itself and that works. So what we can do is give it a view that takes in the pressable and the avatar together and show that. Now the reason for the avatar is simple. So we give this a flex and flex row because by default it is flex column item center, so it maintains that alignment, and that's it. That's all we did. So we know that it's already going to be aligned to the right, so that's perfectly okay. So given that, we also need to move the chain select to this because we want it to show by the right, which is something similar to what we have here. But we need to still style it because, of course, it does that. But how do we get the icon and this network state? We are going to add that eventually. But for now, we have this, and we are sure that we have that. Looking at how our select works, you can see it looks similar. Of course, we can still style it because it can still be changed. But for now, it works because it looks precisely the way this looks. Slight adjustment, but it looks extremely similar. And then we need to also implement this to have the ID. That's a custom implementation. So far so good. We have this. So we still need to implement this also. So I think that's the last thing we need to do today. So I'm going to tell the AI to do one last thing. I want to have, is there even a need for that yet? To manage, to give each of the account a name. So we already have this, we already have a type for that. We have a .ts, which is in the type. So from the type, you can see we have the wallet account, which have address, name, last use, account type, private key. So we are going to use this to implement that also, like talking about saving your account and stuff. So we're going to do that. But for now, I'm just going to let this fly. So there's one more thing I wanted to do before we rounded up this today, and I've not done that yet. I can't remember what it is. The refresh balance. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go to a new task, and I'm going to tell the AI to, using your knowledge of Alchemy MCP available. Can we implement account refresh, balance refresh? So this is the last thing we're going to do. We are not going to even implement it, just show it and then we are done with it. Then in the next part of this, we are going to use that to just implement that. So you can see it's going to use the Alchemy MCP server that we already added and I showed you guys. It's going to use it to query what is expected or what is available from Alchemy, get all the functions available and use that to implement everything that is needed. Now this is one of the functions that we have, get token price by symbol. So if we output this, is fetch tokens owned by. So you can see the token implementation I said you are going to implement, but that will be later. Probably if you have enough time tomorrow, we can do that. Tomorrow we will move very fast. We already have all our stores implemented. You just add hooks, add some functions to the store, fetch from there to more of UI updates tomorrow, which is our part 5 of the series. So you can see it making decisions based on the MCP servers. And you can see it displaying even the asset of the token. So implementing tokens is very easy, but let's focus on the main things that are important, much more than that. So two things I'm also going to do tomorrow is implement the entire documentation for Alchemy so that it's easy, aside from using the MCP server, which doesn't contain all the function. It can also use the llm.tsx function or the txt file to learn how Alchemy works and the functions, and then use that for our hooks going forward. Exactly. So what we will do is we have to replace the it pricing we implemented with the fetch token price by symbol, which is more accurate. So we don't even need that, but we've implemented it, we have to remove it. So next thing is multi-token balance support, extend just beyond this. So these are the things we are going to implement tomorrow. So that's basically what we are going to do. So this is where we stop this today. And so far so good. We couldn't check the build today because of the build errors again. We are not able to like that, but I'll try to see when the build is done or persist. I believe it should not persist because it was working there, but then we had the issue with file and some of the files got corrupted and we had to restart. All of those things happen. So yeah, so that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate you guys for taking time to always come and learn and see what we are doing here. Even if not learning, just enjoying what it is I'm doing here. Really appreciate that. And that'll be the end of today. So don't forget to also share this with someone that you feel like needs this. And also don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you want to see the next, get notified for the next part of this series and for other series that are already planned for this month and for coming months also. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you guys in the next part of the series. Same time. Bye for now.